back to Not My Fantasy, the podcast where we watch, review, and discuss the lore behind our favorite and least favorite fantasy films. I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we have fellow podcasters, including a direct descendant of Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Yeah.
You really did your
only.
research.
If only.
We have Abbie and Kelsey of Fairy Tale Fix Pod.
Hello, I'm Kelsey.
Hello, I'm Abbie. Kelsey's the Danish descendant,
Yes.
not me. I come from Swedish blood.
The
Very
Scandinavian
very
sisters
different.
here.
Very different. Opposite ends of that one peninsula. Yeah, we are from Fairy Tale Fix, which is a show where we, like you, are very interested in folk and fairy tales, and so we read each other classic stories, and then we say we fix them for a quote-unquote modern audience, but really it's mostly just us deciding what would make this story gayer or more fun for us personally. Usually that sometimes involves making them a lot bloodier.
Yeah, like the Little Mermaid in my fix anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about the Little Mermaid today.
Sorry.
So
Spoiler alert.
No,
spoiler
it's
alert for this episode.
Hey, they clicked on the episode.
They
know what
did. They did click on it. So yeah, and our fix for the Little Mermaid, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we get into talking about the movie and some of the origin stories around it, was very bloody.
Yes, I really enjoyed your Little Mermaid episode. I would recommend people go back and listen to that episode because it was a really fun episode. I actually got emotional at one point hearing you read the story. So
Thanks.
I
It was
mean-
really fun. We always do Sad Boy Hans Christian Andersen around Christmas time. Because you know, Christmas feels, I guess. I don't know how that started really.
He wrote some truly depressing Christmas stories, and then it just kind of morphed into telling Hans Christian Andersen stories in general over time.
yeah, so we are so happy to have Fairy Tale Fix on. I love
We're
your
so
content.
excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We are so honored that you asked us to come on, especially during Mermaid.
Yes.
We're so excited.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
part one of our mermaid series. So
Ooh, part one.
yeah, we're overlapping Mermaid and Pride Month to talk about
Perfect.
mermaids. Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
Excellent.
Mermaids are absolutely the best allegory for queer relationships because they're always tragic, romantic, and want what they can't have.
Yeah.
What's socially acceptable. We have a couple stories that we just read on our podcast about that. So
Nice. Yeah, check those out. Give them a listen. Get your mermaid fix for the year before people stop making mermaid content until next May.
yeah.
So I'm wearing my Merman Belle Isle shirt, and I'm reporting live
love
from
it.
Ariel's grotto.
Yeah, I'm in Ursula's lair. I'm also wearing her seashell that she uses to capture Ariel's voice. It is in here. And Cullen once got me this shirt. Look at me.
Oh my God, that's so
Way to
good.
Love
practice
it.
Nothing.
That's perfect.
Because Ursula is my absolute favorite. So
Yeah, one of the best lines in the entire movie.
Yes.
so many good lines from her. Body language is one of my favorites. So good.
Absolutely the best part of the whole movie. Yeah, I'm outside of Ursula's lair right after she gets blown to smithereens, basically.
Yeah, her cartilage is floating down above you.
It
Very
really does
sad.
kind of look like Kelsey's reporting live from the scene where Ursula's body parts are raining down on her former lair. And I am I felt like someone needed to rep the above the water section of the film, so I am on the beach in front of Eric's palace. It's a pretty dope palace. Out of all of the Disney palaces, I think this one might be my favorite.
It is really nice.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
it's got
great.
the waterfront property value.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Quite a steal on Verbo.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So we're talking about the 1989 The Little Mermaid, iconic Disney animated film. Now, have we seen this movie before?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
Listen, I do have to say, over the past few episodes, that has been a thing I did have to say and be like, yeah, guys, I've never seen this movie. Please don't make fun of me. I have seen this movie. I actually watched it 1.75 times today in preparation. My boyfriend had never seen the movie. There have been so many movies that I have not seen, like Disney movies, like the classics, because I was obsessed with Little Mermaid, Aladdin, etc. But yeah, so Lyle had never seen it, his first time seeing it, and we just heard earlier it was okay. So
unpopular opinion.
I guess it's always hard when you are seeing something as an adult and it doesn't have the kind of nostalgia factor, but the music is so good alone. I feel like
the music is so good. Ursula's such a great villain.
Ursula alone makes up for everything.
Yeah,
absolutely. And like, it's also, even if you don't appreciate the story, I feel like the art is so gorgeous. Like, it's a very aesthetically pleasing movie.
The animal sidekicks are like really well used, unlike some other movies where like they kind of get left in the dust.
Yeah.
Great. All around great movie. Almost 35 years old.
Oh my God.
Next year will be 35.
Really well.
Yeah.
Holds
well,
up
I
well.
know it'll be 34 because I was born in 89. Woo, 89 baby.
You and Taylor Swift.
This year. Yeah, me and Taylor Swift.
And my sibling.
It doesn't feel like it's been out that long.
I took that personally. I'm sorry.
No.
But like it's still in my
so old.
It's
such an old movie.
As pieces of media, though, it does feel like when something is like 30 years old, it's like, oh wow, that's a long time. But then you're like, I'm a 30-year-old. It's like, that's not that long.
I mean, we just watched Sleeping Beauty, which is like 59,
800 years old.
Which
it doesn't
like
seem that old either.
My parents had this movie on VHS. We had the original like VHS with the phallic tower.
Classic.
And it was like when they got married and they had like 3 VHSs when my oldest sibling was born. And it was like the Muppet movie, Horton Hears a Who, and the Little Mermaid.
Oh my goodness. What a collection.
So my sibling Caitlin loved this movie and would watch it all the time. And that's why they made the rule you can only watch a movie like once a day. Because
that's a very important rule.
Can I just keep watching this? So
oops, I broke the rule.
I also loved it because by the time I was older, my sibling was like, I don't like that movie anymore. That movie is lame. And so I would watch it when my siblings were gone. I was hanging out with my mom and she would be like, hey, you can watch a movie they won't let you watch. And I would watch this.
Nice.
Aww.
Yeah. So that's what I associate with it. Also, you know, I always end up, it's a Disney movie, we're bringing up the novel-length fanfic I wrote. Ariel was one of the main characters and she was so fun to write because I loved this bitch. She was just a disaster the whole time.
Thank you for saying that.
And it was so fun to write. Triton was in it. Ursula and Vanessa were both separate characters. They were in it. The logic of like mermaid voices and souls was like very complicated because I only added supernatural elements like a quarter of the way in. And then
of course it was.
Eric, I think sorry to the Eric stance because I think I did his character dirty because he was like kind of mean and he was like a skater boy and he was bisexual. That wasn't a problem, but
oh my God, Cullen, I kind of want to read it. This sounds amazing.
So that means you're gonna post it somewhere, right? So we can all read this.
I mean, it's around on the internet.
I love
it. It's a cringe, but the Eric, he had a bit of an arc, but I don't know if it was good enough. But yeah, I think it was based on I don't like the prince in the original story, and then but watching this movie again, I'm like, Eric's such a little sweetie.
Well, I watching this back, I was like, Eric fucking rules.
I know. I started rewatching, like thinking, like I remember not really like caring for Eric, and I kind of was even writing like mean notes about him, and then I was like, no, he's actually doing a lot. He's all right.
Yeah,
great.
I know there's all the discourse like don't give up your voice for a man, but I'm like, for this
maybe
man,
this one,
she did pick a good one.
like,
Yeah, fair. She didn't really know that
Yeah,
But
true. But
that's
it's like,
and therein lies the problem. they're
I love
not
you.
always great.
You know what? She just saw him risk his life to save his dog, and she's like, "Yep, that's the one."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
I get it. I kind
Fair
of
enough.
get it.
Yeah. He saves his dog. He's hot, rich, nice. Like, I'm
Mhm.
like,
He can play
That's-
the
Royalty.
piccolo.
yeah, those don't,
Yeah.
yeah, guys like that don't show up every Tinder swipe. Like,
They do not.
I also
That's why
love
she
hot
had
musicians.
to pounce on it so hard.
yeah. Which is something that there is a lot of discourse around this movie that I'm sure we will get to as we go through the movie.
Yes.
Excited.
And you know, I'm someone who's open to discourse. And I don't think any media is above critique. But I also think it's my shorthand is like BuzzFeed criticism, but it's like surface level, like didn't watch the movie, read the back of the box kind of criticism is what,
Like,
yeah.
didn't really like try to understand its themes.
Yeah.
Or the world of the story.
Yeah, or like if an evil villain who literally gets stabbed says something, you're worried that kids will think that that's the right message.
Right.
You know, we talked about that in Beauty and the
Yeah.
Beast when someone said, "Oh, Gaston's really creepy with Belle," and kids can't tell that he's the villain. And I was like,
It's like they can tell.
They know.
I remember knowing exactly who the movie's very clear that he's being weird and that's wrong.
yeah, Disney movies have never been accused of subtlety.
No, especially not when it comes to who the bad guy is.
Yeah.
He's wearing red.
And he has fangs. Almost all Disney villains have like little canines
Yeah.
that just pop out in the cartoon.
So this movie came out in 1989, as we said before. It started the Disney Renaissance, which is kind of when Disney was making hit after semi-hit. Like people would say kind of the peak is Little Mermaid through Lion King, like 89, 94. But the Renaissance period continues through to Tarzan in 99. This film was written and directed by John Musker and Ron Clements for Walt Disney Studios. Music and lyrics by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, who had come from Little Shop of Horrors, and they brought like a Broadway sensibility to animation that is still with us to this day. Cue the Frozen franchise. It starred Jodie Benson as Ariel, Pat Carroll as Ursula, Samuel E. Wright as Sebastian, C.D. Barnes as Eric. He was 16 when he recorded the lines.
Really?
Yeah.
That person was 16.
Yeah.
He was like a 25-year-old man.
Yeah.
That voice
Holy
is pretty
crap.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Kenneth Mars as King Triton, Jason Martin as Flounder, and Buddy Hackett as Scuttle. Founding father DreamWorks Jeffrey Katzenberg cautioned that the movie wouldn't be profitable as it was a girls' film. He wanted to cut part of your world. He thought it was slow. But
no one listened to that guy.
Yeah. Later on, he said, "Oh, this is gonna be huge," and then it made 84.4 million in its initial 1989 run. So it was the last film to be hand painted. Every cell is hand painted, and it uses some CGI. It's like a very transitional film technology wise. It won Oscars and Golden Globes for best score and song being Under the Sea. And Ariel's still around. I've met her a few times as a mermaid and as a human. She's always really fun. She's always great to talk to. At the Disney parks, there is a ride that tells her story. I don't love the ride because I think it cuts out all the scary parts. It's just like, here are the songs, and you're like, you need the little
it's like they took the Snow White ride and did the opposite, and they're like, let's just make this super fun.
Yeah. And then they redid the Snow White ride at Disneyland, and it like
did they?
It hit the medium because no longer just the witch screaming at you.
Yeah, it was scary as fuck.
Yeah, now there's
am I
like
allowed to curse on this? I'm sorry.
yeah, we are.
Okay.
There's witch scenes, and then it ends with like the Snow White ending, and it's all like it's a good balance. And I'm like, that's what Little Mermaid should have been, you know?
That's exciting. I haven't been on it in ages.
Yeah, it's it opened with the pandemic, with the post-pandemic opening. The new Snow
my
White
god.
ride. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I haven't been. That's very exciting. I love Disneyland.
I do too. I was just there. And then there's Eric's castle and like grottos where you meet Ariel at the Magic Kingdom. And in Tokyo Disney Sea, there's like an Atlantica area with like little kid rides that are fish themed. There's a prequel film and a sequel. Ariel, I think, is the only Disney princess to have a child. And there was also a prequel TV series.
Yeah, her name is Melody, the daughter. That's the only thing I remember.
Well,
I think
sure
I watched that one more than I watched the original. I actually remember
Really?
I remember the Little Mermaid 2 quite well. I don't know why, I just liked that one better.
I liked it as a kid when it came out at Blockbuster. I remember getting it very excited.
Yeah.
I had a ton of merch for it because that was back when they like promoted the sequel films hard. They were like,
Yeah.
I don't think it really holds up. But I'm sure we'll get to that in 25 years on this podcast.
In 25 years. Yeah, great.
It'll be the apocalypse, and we're like, our final episode is Little Mermaid 2.
And listeners are like, thank God.
Finally,
We've
they're
been
in their
waiting for this
bunkers.
one.
Ariel, official Disney princess. She's the patron princess of theater kids, the LGBTQ plus community, swimmers, marine biologists, nerds, fandoms, fanfic authors, hot messes, BTS stands, daddy's girls, hoarders, anthropologists, John Hughes movies, and 2010s pop music fans.
Yeah. Wow. She really has a lot under her belt.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of domains there.
She does. Yeah. A cleric of Ariel has a lot of options.
Yeah.
I love that.
Many
I love
options.
that. I love that you mentioned hoarders because yes, behind you is a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. In 2008, there was a Broadway musical, which was kind of a flop, but I enjoyed the soundtrack, and I've saw something on YouTube. And it's gone through many different versions because they revised it for an international tour and then translated that, and so it's hard to like. It's like, which version of the Little Mermaid are you doing? Because there's a lot of different variants. It added that Ursula and Triton officially were siblings and children of Poseidon, half siblings of Percy Jackson, and Ursula was responsible for the death of Ariel's mother.
Oh, not shocking.
Which is different than the prequel canon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw
The prequel canon. I've never seen the prequel.
I
I've
never
seen those series, but I don't remember like any of the lore, you know?
I vaguely remember the series. I only know this because people bring it up from the prequel, is that she was killed by a pirate ship, and people are like, maybe it was Captain Hook.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that would also make Ariel distantly related to Hercules.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Ursula's power is in a shell, and Ariel destroys it to defeat her. So Ariel's the one that defeats Ursula.
Shell.
Yeah, that shell right there.
Wait, when does she defeat Ursula?
And the climax, she like breaks a shell.
Oh, okay.
And that's how they, instead of impaling her with a ship. There is no Vanessa in the musical. There's a dance contest where Eric chooses Ariel, who dances for him instead of singing. Oh, sorry, a singing contest. Singing contest, Ariel dances. They had a song earlier called One Step Closer where Eric is showing her how to dance. And it's like, oh, dancing is a way to express your emotions non-verbally, body language. And she does so. Eric also has a song called Her Voice. The sisters have a song with Flounder called She's in Love. And Ariel has songs like Beyond My Wildest Dreams, where she's excited to be on land. And there's If Only, a longing quartet with her, Triton, Eric, and Sebastian that I actually really love. But Scuttle also gets 2 songs.
That's too bad.
He deserves them.
All of that sounded lovely. We don't need to hear from Scuttle, though.
Yeah. That's how they sound. And you're like, okay, maybe one.
He
maybe
deserves
one.
it. King.
Getting Linda Belcher vibes from that. I haven't seen it myself, but that's what I'm imagining. And I am not mad about it.
So let's delve into the lore. So mermaids are a huge topic. So we're going to talk more about mermaid in general lore in a future episode. So today we're focusing on the story of a magical girl losing her voice and or trying to get a soul, or both. And we're going to briefly touch on Triton, the gum that rules the seas.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're going to start in Greek mythology. There's a war between the gods and titans called the Titanomachy. And that was like the big war that predates most of the other stories. So Gaia, Mother Earth, she talks to Zeus. He's fighting his father, and he's like, hey, I had these ugly children that my husband and then my son Kronos trapped in the underworld, and I don't like that because it's painful for me as the Earth, and because they're my kids and I want them out. And these kids include the Cyclops. And so Zeus lets them go. He wants Mother Earth on his side, and the Cyclops make weapon for Zeus and his older brothers, Hades and Poseidon. And Zeus gets this iconic thunderbolt, and Hades gets a helmet of invisibility. And Poseidon got a very iconic trident.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what that controlled the seas, but it also shook the earth because Poseidon was the god of earthquakes. This is the earth shaker. And he got the sea because him and his brothers drew lots. And he got the middle lot, which was the ocean. Poseidon, he had a lot of kids, obviously. Ursula, Percy Jackson, long list.
Long list of
of
descendants.
offspring. Yeah, his wife was Amphitrite, who is a Nereid / nymph goddess of the sea. Some suggest she was initially the main goddess of the sea and a major religious figure, then was kind of subsumed into Poseidon's wife. That's a theory people have with a lot of Greek mythology, that some of these goddesses were big and then the male deity kind of overtook them and they took on a support role.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of happened to her. Poseidon was later called Neptune, but Poseidon and Amphitrite had many kids, with their main son was Triton, who was depicted as half man, half fish, and he usually blew a conch shell, and he later Triton just became a term for a merman.
Cool. Okay.
So that's kind of the King Triton lore, essentially.
So he's King Merman. That's his
King Merman.
actual name.
Yeah. And so he may or may not be the son of Poseidon and have just inherited the Triton when Poseidon retired. But what about losing your voice? That story concept. Let's go back to Greek mythology again. And now we're starting with a naiad, which is a freshwater nymph. And she has a son. His name is Narcissus. TikTok owes so much to him. So much pop psychology is on this man's very well-defined shoulders. Yeah. He was a youth, and he was loved by many boys and many maidens and by the nymphs, but he was rude and cruel to anyone who tried to hit on him. And even this teenage boy who wrote him a love letter, he just came out and was like, here's a sword, use it to end your miserable life. So he sucked. Yeah.
Such a shit.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, there's a mountain or water nymph called Echo, and Zeus is sleeping with all her friends, as he does. And Hera, his wife, is looking for them. And she's as she does. And she's like, if Hera finds them, either Zeus is mad at us, which sucks, or worse, Hera's mad at us, which sucks for my friends. So, because she's not going to take it on Zeus, she's going to take it out on these nymphs. So she would just talk shit to Hera, just babble about whatever. Just oh my gosh, have you seen the latest episode of White Lotus? She's going on. And Hera's I don't have HBO Max. And she got so sick of it that she struck Echo dumb. Basically, you want to talk so much, actually you need to be a good listener. You can only repeat the last few words someone says, which actually is a technique that people who are good listeners sometimes employ. I would do that on accident when I didn't know what to say after someone spoke, and someone's like, that's actually a really good technique.
Good tip.
For showing that you care.
Yeah. I was like, I'm
that
just
you're
really
listening.
tired.
I'm I actually lost track of what they were saying.
Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up in my brain. Yeah. So Echo's upset, obviously, by that. Years later, or days later, who knows? Echo sees Narcissus hunting. And so I'm paraphrasing the Metamorphosis by Ovid in ancient Rome. She's like, he's hot, I love him. And she starts following him. And he hears her following him while he's out hunting with the boys. It's Saturday, obviously. And he cries out, is anyone there? And Echo answers, or is anyone here? And Echo answers, here. He is like, come. And she calls back, come. And he's like, and he's like, why dost thou avoid me? And she's like, are you avoiding me? And then he's like, okay, let us come together here. And she's like, let us come together here, and pops out and tries to hug him. And And he's like, remove thy hands from thus embracing me. I will die first before thou shalt have the enjoyment of me. So like, I'd rather
Wow.
die than
Jeez,
be with
okay.
you. And she's a nymph, like literally
Yeah.
a magical, hot nature spirit. And he's like, I'd rather die. And she's just like, have the enjoyment of me, because she like repeats the last words.
Oh no.
And he just
Oh, boy.
wanders off, and she wastes away into practically nothing, as the shirt says. But when you're alone in the quiet places of nature, if you call out, Echo replies. And maybe it's because she wishes no one to be as alone as her. She's with you in the quiet places. Yeah.
Oh,
Aw,
that's so
tragic.
sad.
Tragic
Yeah.
romantic mermaids.
Meanwhile, the other nymphs are like, fuck that guy. And then also, multiple human boys are killing themselves and being like, fuck that guy. I wish he would be deprived of what he loved, aka himself. So, like, all these hot people are dying. And so someone's got to do
Which
something
is
about
a
it.
tragedy upon the earth.
A
Tragedy.
tragedy. And so some say it was Nemesis, the goddess who punished the hubris of men. Others say it was Aphrodite, who was like, I made you hot, and this is what you do with it.
This is your thanks. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be going out and making more hot people.
Yeah. She's
Now you're taking them away.
Yeah.
pissed. And as we know, you do not want to be on her bad side. So
Heck nah.
he then is cursed too. He sees himself in a reflection. He falls in love with his own reflection. And he's so obsessed with himself, he can't like stop staring. And so he tries to kiss himself, he can't. And so he's basically like wasting away on Ozempic, and he dies.
Aw.
And he gets turned into a flower, as most dead pretty boys in Greek mythology do. They become a flower. And he invented the latest way to call your ex or anyone mildly annoying a bad person who deserves no compassion.
Narcissist.
Narcissist. I'm always like, do you think this person would fall in love with their own reflection? Like, this person was kind of rude to Dairy Queen. You're like, "Ah, man, narcissist."
It's not the same as being a narcissist.
Yeah. Like, so that's, and Echo watches this all very sadly. So we have the story of the woman who can't express how she feels because of the missing voice, and the jerk she wastes that energy on. And so, speaking of nymphs, it was common scientific knowledge. It was published in books and stuff that nymphs and fae creatures, they had to marry a human to get a human soul. It's just science. Just science.
It's just science.
Yeah.
Massive scare quotes.
And what's also science is Undines were the name for water elementals. So flash forward to 1811, we get a German romance novella called Undine. Widely popular, and Hans Christian Andersen did cite this story as inspiration for The Little Mermaid.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love that the idea of like mermaids or fae creatures not having a human soul isn't something that Hans Christian Andersen made up. I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it was just common fact,
Yeah.
Science.
Science.
It's just science.
Trust the science.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, that always came out really left field for me, and yeah, my biology teacher failed me.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I mean, it's
how could he not have told us?
yeah. Well, it's like when people online are like, do your own research, but they don't really specify making sure you have the most up-to-date current research. So I mean, you could
Right.
research and prove this.
Well, we were working with very, very old textbooks.
Yeah, I remember having to skip. It was weird because I did a creationist textbook, but Catholic homeschooling has you skip the creationist section because Catholics do believe in evolution. But I'm like, why didn't you just get us a book that had evolution? But you just skip the creationist section.
Which would be the entire reason to have a biology book like geared toward a specific faith in the first place. But
yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, so we start off with this knight named Holdebrand, and he's lost in a storm. He takes shelter with a fishing family, and they have this weird manic pixie dream girl daughter who like bites him and like says weird stuff. and is like
It's Zooey Deschanel.
Zooey
Is she
Deschanel.
always like laughing with him under a white sheet in his memories?
Yes. It's like Natalie Portman in Garden State is shaken. So she's just running around being a weirdo, and he's like, let's get married. And then this priest also is lost in the storm, and he's like, I guess I can do that for you. So then they do, but then her personality switches, and now she's like so good and sweet and too good for the sinful earth. And she's like, yeah, because I was a water spirit and I didn't have a soul, but now that I'm married, I have a soul, and so I know how to be good. And then also my uncle hates that and maybe wants to kill us. So eventually they make it back to the castle. This is a novella. I'm doing a real tight summary. And at the castle, she reveals that Undine, or Holbrand's ex-situationship, this girl named Bertalda, is not the Duke's daughter, but actually the lost child of the fisher folk that raised her. And it's like, aren't you so happy to be reunited? But Bertalda's pissed because she wanted to be noble, and now she's embarrassed, and she's super rude to the fishers. And then the Duke is like, that's embarrassing. And so everyone disowns her. So then Undine and Holbrand are like, I guess we'll take you in. So Three's Company. And yeah, so he finds his perfect wife, and the fact that she also makes them close up the castle fountain because he doesn't want her relatives crashing, he finds her like hard to connect with. She's no longer a manic pixie dream girl.
Pesky little souls.
Yeah, so he's
making
like,
you consistent.
Yeah, and he does not like that. He's like, no, which
yeah,
is
he wanted a bad girl.
He wanted a bad girl. Now she's like the most pious, kind lady in the land.
Boo.
Boo.
And this is so amazing that the narrative of man wants manic pixie dream girl, and it's not what he thought it would be, is like from 1811, you know.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah. And he starts to emotionally cheat with Bertalda and like blame Undine for all their problems. And they're doing this where they're on a river cruise on the Rhine, and she's like, don't yell at me in front of my family, they'll get mad. But he does it anyway, and then her family scoops her up and snatches her back in the water. And he's like, oh, I guess I can be with Bertalda now. And he goes to the priest who married him to Undine, and the priest is like, your wife is still alive, so I can't just like remarry you.
Not how it works.
Not how it works. And
what are we, English?
Yeah, that's a lot of drama for that. And then Undine is like appearing to him and sending him messages like, hey, like, don't get married or my family will be pissed, but if you do, don't open the fountain. Like, I can't control what you do, but just please don't do that, because according to the laws of that bind my people, if you do that to me, I have to kill you. And
I'm loving where this is going. I'm so excited.
And he is a fucking idiot. He marries Bertalda.
They always are.
And Bertalda's like, open the fountain. He opens it, and then that night Undine comes out of the fountain and she kisses him, and the water in her drowns him, like goes in his lungs. And there was a medical condition they called like Undine's kiss or something, because it was like water in your lungs.
I love that for her.
Yeah,
me too. Good for her.
So he dies. She weeps over his grave, turning into a fountain. So that is, you know, another story of she can speak, but she doesn't have a soul. So she tried to get a soul, and it still ended tragically.
And she had to kill him. It's just the rules.
Just the rules.
Make them. She just enforces them.
Yeah. She's so sad about it. She became a fountain. I think Bertalda was even pissed that she got to be a fountain around the grave or something. She was just always salty.
Well, Bertalda has some unresolved issues. It sounds like Bertalda should have gone to therapy before she got married.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Holbrand needs to rethink how hastily he makes life choices. Yeah.
He also probably could use a little therapy, because it sounds like he's attracted to soulless people.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that seems like a thing
that seems like a thing
out.
for him, yeah.
So this is all kind of set up to the classic 1837 fairy tale by bisexual disaster, Hans Christian Andersen.
Our boy.
We
love him.
We love him. We talked about him in The Snow Queen. And like the Snow Queen, this has some religious themes. But it doesn't have, I don't know, I feel like there's a little more nuance to Little Mermaid than Snow Queen. As much as I love Snow Queen because it's also fucking weird.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a little more of a tight narrative. So this fairy tale was allegedly written by Hans about Edward Cullen, whom he confessed his love for. He said he felt for him as if he were like a woman pining after a man, or a Calabrian wench or something. So
yeah, he did say something like, oh, absolutely wild, like hilarious like that.
He's like, I'm in my
Calabrian
wench era for you.
Good for HCA.
Yeah.
He wanted to have a hoe phase so bad.
And Edward very kindly said, I couldn't return the love. He wasn't like, that guy was a weirdo. He's like, I couldn't love him the way he wanted.
Yeah, which is fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually like much gentler than I think a lot of other people might have been at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look at fucking narcissist.
Yeah. Edvard wasn't telling Hans like, you should just kill yourself.
Yeah, here's a sword, go kill yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I just am not into you like that, bruh.
Yeah.
And so it's
sorry, I just don't feel about you
I
that
don't
way.
feel that way, yeah. It's this very beautifully written fairy tale. Definitely recommend to read. I would say a top 10 fairy tale. Like, we're talking about like the top 10 all-time fairy tales, including the best version of different kinds of stories. I think Little Mermaid makes it.
It's so beautifully written. When Kelsey was reading the story to me for our podcast, I like some of the passages and some of the words that Hans used to describe like the emotions involved were so beautiful that like, you can hear me on the podcast. I literally do start crying at some point because I'm so moved. It's so gorgeous.
It's just gorgeous, and the world he paints is like so vivid. And I remember my mom's friend reading me. I got a copy of the story from the library. I remember her reading it to me. And so because I had a really busy week, instead of reading it, I listened to an audio version while I was driving. And it just really, I know, it's so good to be read aloud too.
Yeah, Hans Christian Andersen was such a talented, like mega talented writer.
Yeah, and this is probably like his most well-known story. It's most iconic story. There's a statue of the mermaid in Copenhagen. I mean, he has some other good ones and popular ones, but like if we say Hans Christian Andersen, this is the story most people think of first.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah. So let's quickly go through this story. We're under the sea, in a beautiful sea kingdom where lives the Mer King, his 6 daughters, and their grandmother, who wears more oysters than anybody on her tail because of her rank.
She's so fancy. I'm so sad she wasn't in the cartoon.
I know. That's a serious negative against the cartoon, is that the grandmother is not there.
Yes, like, I almost said like because in Sleeping Beauty, which was which bombed and was the last fairy tale they did, it definitely emphasized the fact that most of the characters were women, and this starts the Renaissance trend of like there's 1 or 2 women in the
Let's
whole
just
story.
Get rid of all of the ladies. That was the problem with Sleeping
even
Beauty.
the side characters are all like dudes.
Yeah. Like her sisters don't, like, they contribute to the plot way less than in the fairy tale.
And that makes me so sad. The sisters were my favorite part of the fairy tale.
Yeah.
They loved her so much.
Anyway, so much. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
We'll get there. We're with these beautiful sisters. They have fish pets. They have beautiful gardens, and the most beautiful is the youngest, as always.
Cullen, can you attest?
Can I attest? Yeah. So the youngest has this beautiful garden that's made to look like the sun, of like red flowers and the statue of a young handsome boy. And she dreams of the surface world, but they can't go until they're 15. That's the rule. And her sisters go for each of their birthdays, but they always tire after a few months and go home. The oldest like saw cities under the stars and talked about the cities. The second was talking about sunsets. The third, she was really adventurous, and she went down a river and saw like towns and palaces, and she ran into kids who were playing and a dog who barked at her. And that little detail never really caught me until this movie, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they took that detail. And the fourth was really shy, so she stayed out in the open sea. She saw dolphins and whales. The fifth sister, she saw glaciers in the winter. She was an Elsa girly.
Mhm.
The
She was
cold
a
doesn't
Norm of the
bother her.
North stan, yeah.
The cold never bothered her anyway.
Yeah. And the sisters would welcome drowning sailors with their beautiful song and welcome them to the sea, but the sailors didn't really recognize the singing and were drowning.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oops. So it's like a nod to they're involved in this drowning, but they don't cause it or assist it.
They're just like confused by it, right? They're like,
Yeah.
"Yay, come down with us. It's so beautiful here." And they're like, "Oh, now you're dead. Why are you not moving?"
Yeah. They're like trying to do CPR.
They're like pushing. They're like, just don't get it. Because they're mermaids. I love that. I love that bit.
Me too. That's a really charming detail.
Yeah, it's like he makes them weird and otherworldly, but very
Yeah.
relatable way.
Yeah.
They're quirky.
The Little Mermaid turns 15 and her grandmother puts on the oysters and the crown, and the mermaid's kind of like, it hurts, and the grandmother's like, beauty is pain. It's your station, which is such a little line, but it's kind of a theme throughout the story. So she swims up and she sees a ship and there's fireworks and they're celebrating the birthday of a prince with like coal dark eyes. And a storm hits and the mermaid rescues the prince and is like holding him close, and she takes him to the beach, is looking at him with love, and it's nearby. Unclear if it's a convent or a temple. You know, some translations just pick one and others are like, it's some kind of building, because she's a mermaid, she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But these girls, she's running out and hiding. These girls come out and find him. And so maybe it's like a Catholic school. Maybe it's Dairy Girls. And so she's longing, and then she tells her sisters, who then tell their friends, who then tell their friends. But it's not everywhere. It's still like an intimate circle of mermaids. It's the cool mermaids. And they're like, actually, I know where that prince is from. And so they show her the palace. They swim on up. And so then she like, yeah,
go get your
girls.
man.
Yeah.
We love this for you.
And so she just like kind of hangs out around the palace, hiding in the reeds, and she starts to even just love humans in general even more, just the people she sees. And she asks her grandma, like, do humans die? Like, we live for 300 years. What about humans? Grandma's like, humans live even shorter lives. But they have a soul, and that soul goes to the regions beyond, you know, unlike us merfolk who dissolve and turn into sea foam, and like, because we don't have a soul. And she's like, but it's better. We have a longer time to live. And like what happens to the humans is kind of vague and uncertain. And the mermaid is upset because she's like, I'll never see the beauty of the world again, you know, when I die. And it reminds me of when we talk about Middle Earth lore and the elves, how their spirits are like tied to the plane of Middle Earth, but humans go up.
No, like I do think that's like a really kind of fascinating, like lesser known Tolkien lore fact, is that like elves, like the world is a flat plane to them, because if they sail west they get to heaven essentially. But to to everyone else the world is a sphere.
They're on like two different worlds,
kinds of existence, but occupying the same physical space.
Him trying to like bend Norse mythology to Christianity created some fun lore, and you know,
very, very fun.
So the grandma is like, well, there is a loophole, because as we all know, God is a rules lawyer. And he said, so if a human loves you more than father and mother and takes your hand and vows to love you forever before the priest, he will give you an immortal soul and keep his own. But that's not going to happen. They're not into fish. Like, your beautiful fishtail, they think it's ugly. Bad taste.
Definitely.
So this ties into what my mother called the leave and cleave, was there's a verse in the Bible that you have to leave your father and mother and cleave to your wife. And so whenever there was
Believe and
like,
cleave. That's
yeah,
funny.
because whenever there was like a boy mom at church who was like really weird with like the daughter-in-law, my mom was kind of like, you like that's normal. Like they go and get married. Like they don't need to like be about you ever forever.
Mhm.
So believe and cleave.
Yeah, don't get me started on hashtag boy moms.
Hashtag boy moms.
I've got a whole rant prepared.
Just opens
Pulls
a
out a
scroll.
scroll.
To the
Number
mothers of
one.
boys. So there's an undersea ball that night, but our girl is sad. She's sneaking out. She's listening to some Evanescence, and she's like,
Another Evanescence era girl.
yeah.
That is my favorite band of all time, by the way.
Classic. So good.
Like,
I just found
obsessed.
I'm really good at doing the wake me up part in karaoke. Like if someone's doing the real singing, I can just be like, wake me up.
Wake me up.
Love that.
Perfect.
Excellent.
And she's like, maybe the sea witch, she can help. And she goes to this dangerous part of the sea. It's all murky and there's grasping polyps that grab at things and never let go. And there's like, there's even like skulls of a mermaid, like a mermaid skeleton in there. So
She's
she
fucking Baba Yaga of the sea.
But she's like, this is for the prince and an immortal soul. Like I got 2 goals. Some people say a protagonist needs 1 goal. I got 2.
I'm a complex lady.
Complex Little Mermaid. And so she finds the witch in a house of bones, kind of similar to the seashell or the sea monster bone house Ursula's in. And there's all these snakes and eels and toads. And she calls them like her little babies that are crawling over this sea witch. Maybe even her little poopsies.
Poopsies.
In my book, it says chickabiddies.
Chickabiddies.
My little chickabiddies.
Cute.
Love that. I'm gonna start calling my pets that.
And the sea witch is like, your desire to be human is stupid, but I'm gonna help you with it because it's gonna make you miserable.
Yeah, she's so good. Best character in both the book
Icon.
and movie.
She's like, I'm gonna give you a potion that'll give you legs by like ripping your tail apart. You're gonna be graceful, but every step is gonna hurt like walking on knives. We're really getting to the queer experience now.
Yeah.
I famously walk on my toes, and all my friends make fun of me for it. And you have a chance that you can marry the prince and get a soul, just like you want. But if he marries another, you will die the next morning and dissolve into sea foam. Either way, you're never going to be a mermaid again. Also, there's a cost. It's the thing most precious to you, or like the best thing that I think about you, your voice. I'm going to cut your tongue out. And the mermaid's like, yeah, I mean, I made it this far, you know. Commit.
Seems fair.
Yeah.
In it to win it.
She yearns. She's yearning.
And she's 15. And
When somebody tells you they love you in your dreams, you're gonna believe them. Yeah.
you believe them.
So she takes the potion. Before she leaves though, the mermaid stops by her father's house, the palace, and she takes a flower from each one of her sister's gardens to remember them by. Because she knows they'll stop her if she says goodbye, but she's like, I'll take these flowers. And she swims up to the shore and she drinks the potion and it hurts and she gets legs. And the prince finds her naked on the beach, takes her in, and he calls her basically like his dumb little foundling or his little foundling or his, you know, she's like his pet. Like she dances for the court, even though it's painful, and she's the most beautiful dancer. And he's like kissing her all the time and taking her around the kingdom. He got her a boy's outfit, you know, to like ride around in. And then she sleeps at the foot of his bed.
Yes, like a
Dressing her up in
dog.
Like a
outfits,
dog.
And yeah.
And he's like, you're my best friend. Like, you understand me. Meanwhile, her
I'd
sister.
marry you if I would.
If I was gonna marry someone, I'd marry you.
I'd marry you.
And she's just
I
like,
hate him.
I love me, and I give him everything for you.
So problematic.
It is that like I've never had a friendship that bad, but I've had ones with pieces,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, absolutely, like elements of that in various areas
Yeah.
of just generally like loving someone more than they love you, and they
Yeah.
kind of know that, and that pleases them.
Yes.
And just like that entire episode of How I Met Your Mother, where everybody's like on someone's hook.
On the hook.
That was based off this.
Yes,
Yeah.
based off of The Little Mermaid,
Yeah.
clearly.
Clearly.
But I will happily tell you, I don't think I've ever slept at the foot of somebody's bed. So,
Oof, yeah.
you
Or
know,
outside,
That's
right
good.
just right outside their door
yeah.
in your own little mattress on the floor.
I guess
You have some dignity.
I was born with a soul. Like she wants him and a soul. She's got to go all out.
She does.
You know,
But he's an asshole.
he's
is
an
the point.
asshole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my fake baptized soul, because they baptized me wrong according to Pope Francis.
Never forget.
Never forget. Bring it up whenever I
forget.
can. So the sisters find out where she was, and they're like, the fuck? Like, they're like, you left us. We love you. We miss you. We're happy we found you. But what?
Yeah. What the fuck, bitch? As sisters do. As sisters say.
And then eventually, even her father and grandmother swim up. The grandmother hasn't been up to the surface in years.
Oh.
And they're waving at her, and she misses them so much. Like, this is so painful for her.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, the parents, because there are parents in this one, they want the prince to marry this princess, but he's like, the only person I love is the dairy girl that saved me, like the girl from the temple who found me. But I love you because you kind of look like her, and you have the best heart. So you're the only other person I could marry if I was to marry someone. Ha ha ha.
Oh boy.
Oof.
And then he's like, you know me so well, and they get on a boat to sail to this kingdom, and he starts mansplaining the ocean to her,
That's so funny.
and she really likes him because she's like, oh, it's so cute.
Oh my gosh, you're so smart. It's
Yes.
so great how you know all that stuff.
I just want to slap her so badly. Like,
This is no Eric. This is no Eric.
no, this
No.
is complete. This is anti-Eric.
Anti-Eric. This is Prince Chad.
Prince
Uh,
Chad. Yes.
Oh, 100%.
So they arrive in the other kingdom. It turns out the princess is the temple girl, because plot twist, she probably got a fancy private school education as a princess with nuns. If you've seen the pilot of CW's Reign, you know this.
You know how this goes.
And so he's so happy to be with her, and they're so happy, and they're getting married, and the Little Mermaid carries the wedding train. So she can't cry though, because mermaids can't cry. Add that to the list. Unicorns, big girls, mermaids.
Yep.
Can't cry.
It's science.
It's
Science.
Just
science.
science.
And that night, the sisters arrive, and they're like, hey, we sold our hair, we shaved our heads, and we sold our hair, our beautiful hair, to the sea witch for this knife. Kill the prince and cover your feet in his blood, so you can jump into the sea and become a mermaid again and live out the rest of your time with us.
My favorite part.
Yeah.
Favorite.
You got to get a lot of blood, because most of it's probably monster energy in there.
Gotta really
he have
drain
blood?
it.
Yeah. So she shows up in the bridal chamber. She sees them sleeping sweetly together. And she's like, I love him too much to kill him. So she hurls herself into the sea. But then, twist, she's greeted by these air spirits, the daughters of the air, who they're like, we're spirits trying to earn souls by serving humanity with cooling breezes and comfort, and then we get to go to heaven. And you want to be one of us? She's like, yeah, I'm down. So she cools the faces of the worried prince and princess because they're looking for her, and she flies off to go do good deeds. She looks into God's son and cries now because she's sort on her path to souldom. And these daughters of the air, every time they see a good child when they fly through her house, they lose a year of surface. but every time they see a bad child, they cry, and each tear adds a day of indentured servitude to the Abrahamic God in this soul MLM that they're in.
Soul MLM is a great like title.
And it's just and so
That's so funny.
The author of Mary Poppins famously called this blackmail. She said, it's blackmail and the children know it, but they don't say anything. That's magnanimity for you. Because it's like, I like the idea of, okay, now you can earn a soul, but then they're like, and if you're bad, Ariel can't go to heaven, and be with Jesus.
It's your fault Ariel's not going to heaven.
Yeah, and it's like, wow.
Wow. That's a lot to put on a child.
Yeah. And so
this seems like such an afterthought too, the way it's written, like at the very last couple sentences.
Yeah, some people think the Daughters of the Air thing was added later. That's something people will say, but it's not true. That was always there. It just feels tacked on.
Yeah, it's like
it really
like,
does.
Yeah, what this is for kids.
Yeah.
There's a moral there needs to be a moral lesson in here somewhere, and not just like I'm very sad and I wrote a very sad story about unrequited love.
Yeah. Which is funny because the 1800s was all about tacking morals onto fairy tales, but most of them, very few of them have it. We talked about that like when we did we talked about Charles Perrault's Sleeping Beauty, and he's like trying to make a moral out of just a bunch of weird shit that happened to this one girl. So this story really fascinates me. So as a gay man, I've like kind of processed this story different ways as I heard it throughout my life, but a prominent way when I was like a toe out of the closet but still in the closet was that the prince, I was like, is a distraction from her ultimate destiny of immortal soul and God. So I just need to focus on the soul stuff and not get waylaid by like the prince and like sexual desire. So as much as beautiful as this story is, and as much as there are things I miss in the Disney adaptation, there's that might tie into why I kind of like the adaptation, is the change of message.
About kind of switching it to purely a pursuit for love.
Yeah, or just kind of
that's a worthy end goal in and of itself, of loving who you love.
Loving who you love and belonging, like finding a place where you belong, and that an attempt to do so isn't just going to end in sorrow and sadness and ruin, that you can make it work, and that's Howard Ashman was, we've talked about him before with Beauty and the Beast. He was a brilliant lyricist and a gay man, and he brought that queerness to a lot of his characters in the way that they feel othered and outsided, and they yearn to find a place where they belong, which resonates not just with queer people but with all kinds of people. Like, we all want to belong.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful story.
It is, because I love the beautiful tragedy of it. I just like that we have two versions that you can.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, and each version definitely has their place, because like there are a lot of ways in which I also really like that in the animated adaptation that she does get the prince.
Yeah.
And that they have a beautiful life together, and he's a very worthy prince to have.
Yeah.
And that her family still loves her at the end, and wants her to be happy, and she's not cut off from them. So it's actually really beautiful and lovely, and like a really happy ending. And I love that. But something I was talking to Kelsey about in our episode about The Little Mermaid was I also love The Little Mermaid as a story of, there are multiple ways to be happy, and there are multiple ways to pursue your goals. And that even if something doesn't work out for you, or you love someone who doesn't love you back, that's not the end for you. You don't have to just die. You can do something else. You can pursue something else that's worth it to you, and still have a beautiful life.
Yeah.
And a meaningful one.
She has all these air friends now.
Yeah, and she still gets to pursue having a soul, which is like her ultimate goal, and still gets to do good works and have like a very meaningful existence, even though she didn't get what she wanted initially.
Yeah.
And she had to leave a lot of stuff behind.
Yeah. No, I think I do. Yeah, I love that about the story too. That because a lot of people are, do you know Ariel dies in the original Little Mermaid? And
No, she
so I was like,
doesn't.
she does.
No, she
doesn't
doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
No. And like, did you read it or
Yeah.
did you see
Yeah,
that on
it's actually
Facebook?
it's a very sad story and it's very tragic in many ways, but I also like that it's also at the end a very hopeful story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abby's perspective made me so weepy. It was just so thoughtful, and I love that view of it. I think that's very just beautiful. My
Do you wanna-
fix my
Yeah,
fix
I was
was
gonna say.
that all that happens, but that the sisters go and kill Eric, and they just drown everyone on that ship afterwards out of revenge, because that's how I like my fairy tales to end. I like mean monster mermaids.
There is I thought of you because I was looking at the Wikipedia like adaptations list, and there's a play that's told the story is the sisters interrogating the prince and asking like, "Was this worth it?" Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm
I want
looking
to see
that up
that.
immediately after this. That sounds amazing.
Sounds like
I love-
exactly what Kelsey wanted out of this story.
Yeah.
I want some mean monster mermaids. I want some drowning of sailors.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Like, my sister died for you? For you?
Fuck you. You didn't love her.
Fuck you.
You treat her like a pet. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked her. I let her sleep at the foot of my bed. The foot of your bed.
I am poking so many holes in your ship. Daddy, call down a storm.
Oh, yes. So good.
Yeah, so Disney thought about adapting The Little Mermaid back post Snow White. They were like, what other fairy tale should we do? And it was a harder one to adapt. They almost made it a short, and it just, plans never came to fruition. But Musker and Clemens, they found it in a bookshop. And they're like, this has the makings of a good movie. And they didn't want to greenlit it because they're like, well, we want to make a sequel to Splash, but eventually they made it happen. Obviously, we are in support of Halle Bailey as Ariel. All the people being like, this story is set in Denmark, and I'm like, have you seen the movie? Because I don't think there are flamingos in Denmark. I don't know, like.
Yeah, this takes place on a Caribbean island somewhere.
Yeah, this is very Mediterranean at best. Like,
best.
Yeah,
that's about as far
they
north as we're
imported
going.
a lot of animals
Yeah.
to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, this is no farther north than Spain.
But just look at the trees and the garden on the side of Eric's palace in my background picture. Those are not Northern European
classic
trees.
Scandinavia.
Yeah. So just even that, if we say that mermaid's ethnicity has to match the closest human country.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah. So
also, it's a fictional story.
It's a fictional story.
Yes.
About a singing mermaid. There's a singing talking crab. Like.
And go figure, there are also Black people in Denmark. So
there are Black
Who
Danes.
knew?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
mermaids exist in all, like, it transcends cultures. There are mermaids literally everywhere.
Yeah.
That's
Magical
actually what we did
being-
on our podcast with Mermaid. We did
Check
some
it
like
out.
mermaid story folktales from just around the world. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Go figure.
There's a great episode of the Fairy Tellers about mermaids in the African diaspora. You guys have episodes. It's water, magical lady that lives in the water. Not the craziest thing to imagine.
Scary mermen in the
kind
water.
of a common theme.
It's always beautiful ladies with very scary looking men because homophobia.
Yes. So let's dive into our film. So this was my first time watching this movie out, I realized. So that was exciting.
Ooh, cool.
New
How did
perspective.
that change the experience for you?
Yeah, it definitely did change the experience in how I viewed it. Like, I already kind of had my thesis of how that changes how I view it, but certain parts like hit harder. Again, a quick watch.
Such a good, an easy watch, so watchable.
A nice hour and a half that still
Crisp
told a
hour and a half.
complete story.
Yeah.
Yeah. We open on seagulls flying above this ship that is sailing to the song Fathoms Below.
Banger.
But yeah.
Kind of a bop, yeah.
And you see these dramatic sailors swinging around fish. They're singing about the mer people. And we see Prince Eric and his buddy, his adult caretaker Grimsby, who's seasick, and Eric loves the sea. How cute / hot is Prince Eric? So what I mean by this,
dreamboat.
He's very cute. He's obviously supposed to be kind of a teenager. And so, because I made fake medieval Tinder profiles for Philip and Aurora, and I think people didn't like that because they are kind of supposed to be young. And I'm like, obviously, I'm speaking from if I was the same age demographic.
Yeah. I'm not perving on the teens. I'm
just want to say, I would, yeah. So, but okay, is Eric hotter than Philip?
Yes. Yep. For me,
gosh, that's such a good question.
I like Philip's personality better. I actually don't like Eric that much. I'm really very meh about him.
I think Prince Philip is hotter, but I'm coming at this very much from the nostalgic perspective of Sleeping Beauty is my favorite Disney princess movie.
Same.
And I have been like low-key in love with Prince Philip since I was very small. And The Little Mermaid was not my favorite growing up. I did like it, but this was not the tape that I wore out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think they're both very cute.
Gave me so many like Aladdin vibes.
Yes. Yeah. Aladdin, another cutie.
Yeah, Aladdin's my favorite Disney prince. Yeah, for sure.
And Prince Eric is kind of the last Disney prince. So you have the Beast, but he doesn't start out as a Prince Charming. And since then, like even stories where there is a prince, like Rapunzel, they change it to not a prince.
Interesting.
Which is why in our Frozen episode, I said with Hans, Hans worked really well, but we're done subverting Prince Charming because the trope hasn't been used straight in a very long time. So
they've all been subversions for a long time.
So it's kind of like, okay, now just a regular one is kind of, when I saw the Richard Madden Cinderella, I was like, oh wow, you just went with it. You did subvert it.
Which was nice.
I was like, wow, okay. And you put
I was actually really disappointed on like the Frozen turn with Hans, because I was just kind of like, oh, I actually kind of liked him. I thought that was
I know Hans broke my heart, and that's what they wanted, I think. But yeah,
I did want to say, so I actually didn't like Prince Eric when I was little, or I remember not liking him. I haven't seen this movie in way longer than I thought. I didn't watch it really before we did our episode.
I know you
did.
Yeah, you like half watched it. I think
I watched it while I was on a treadmill at a gym. It was like in a different room for the kids, and I was just like, oh, this counts. But I liked Prince Eric so much more, and it's especially the part where they unveil his statue, and he's like, ugh. And like he's humble, he's like chill, and it's like, oh, you're a cool prince.
Not
he
a
loves
narcissist.
his dog. Yeah, and I was just like, okay, I actually am liking him way more than I remember. So he's pretty good. He's pretty great.
Yeah. So this fish escapes and swims down to the ocean, and we get this great opening. I love this, where we see all the creatures of the sea and this singing and the title sequence. Then we see the mer people, and they're swimming towards Atlantica, their underwater kingdom. I don't think they call it Atlantica in this.
They don't.
I don't think they give it a name.
It's become canon. I guess through the show, probably. They said, oh, Atlantica.
Yeah, it was Atlantica in the show, and then they called it Atlantica a lot in the sequel movie.
In the sequel, yeah. I remember in the show there was this episode where it was like the Pacific Kingdom, I think, or something, and like that daughter was really wild. I just remember like they got like busted
a surfer
partying. Girl? That like they like snuck off to party, and like her parents didn't care, but Triton did or something. Yeah. It was the high school party episode of the children's TV show.
Classic.
So good.
So we see Triton doing this propaganda concert. There was a comment on
you
TikTok.
Make all of your subjects show up to watch your daughters sing.
Someone described the song "Our God is an Awesome God" as it gives King Triton vibes.
Okay.
That's funny.
And so he does this big entrance with his dolphin chariot and his glowing Triton, and everyone's like, yeah, the king. And then you get Sebastian, his little dinky chariot. That
so cute. And the
That's
And this concert, the Daughters of Triton song that they're singing, it gives the, you know, those SNL Lawrence Welk skits where they have like the girl groups, the with my
Yes.
sister, or
Yes.
the I'm Junie. It was Kristen Wiig.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what this gives me, because they're just like, we're the Daughters of Triton, here are our names, and they do this big debut for Ariel. She doesn't show up, and
She's
Triton
not in her clamshell.
Triton 0 to 60. Like, I was scared of Triton as a kid. Like, I know a lot of people are like,
Same.
oh, Triton's so hot. I was scared. I was as scared of Triton as I was of Ursula.
Well, it's one of those things now. It's like, well, put me down as scared and horny. Like, it's hot and scary.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess
but also
my two fears were witchcraft and the patriarchy, I guess.
valid. Good fears.
He's just big and scary. And then, you know what? I'd be pissed if I was one of her sisters, though. Because I made to rehearse and do a concert all about my sister. And then she doesn't
favorite,
even
clearly.
show up.
And she doesn't she didn't show up to rehearsals either.
Yeah.
Like Sebastian even says like it wouldn't kill her to show up to rehearsals every once in a while.
That's when you
like,
change the
Selfish.
parts. Where's the
Careless.
quota? Where's her solo?
Yeah. Honestly, I was expecting instead of like the record scratch, one of them goes, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Ariel!"
Ariel.
Atina is a better mermaid than me. I would be
Yeah,
pissed.
seriously.
So we meet Ariel, and she's exploring a shipwreck with her BFF Flounder, teasing him because he's scared. I love Flounder.
He's a guppy.
He's so fun.
Yeah, he's good.
And she's just having fun. She's just this little weirdo exploring these shipwrecks. And she is a sweet sloppy mess. You know, she just loves finding stuff for her weird little hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Which
She
is
has a
hoarding
special
things.
interest.
Yeah. She's the kid that like takes you to the local junkyard and is like, look at this cool stuff. And you're like, that's a rusty fork.
Like, that's garbage.
That's a rusty dingle hopper.
You
Thank
mean the
very much.
garbage?
Yeah, but I love their little friendship because so they get attacked by a shark. Scary. Also makes me think of Finding Nemo, which I feel like is the spiritual opposite of this film.
Sure, yeah.
Because it's all about go home, your parents miss you, and less like go live your own life.
Also, fish
yeah,
are
that's a really good
friends,
point.
not food.
Yeah.
But fish are food in this movie.
Yes,
Fish are
and that is
definitely food.
not resolved. So the shark is attacking them. Ariel risks her life to save her stuff, but then she risks herself and her stuff to save Flounder.
Yeah, it's her first save the cat /
Yeah.
guppy moment.
Save the chubby little fish moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, she saves Flounder. I love them. And then they swim up. They see Scuttle, who's basically like an 1800s anthropologist, because he just like declares, yep, that's what this is, with no research. Wild theories.
Like no basis for like understanding really what this thing is. There's no reason to think that this thing is a comb. Like
the
all the
only thing
confidence.
he got right was they used to just stare at each other. It got very
All day.
boring.
it got very boring.
That's correct. That's how they invented things. They're like, I'm bored. We need to do stuff.
That's how they invented the internet and escape rooms and all that.
Everything.
To give us something to do besides stare at each other.
Yep.
Yeah, now you stare at your phone.
Thank God we don't have to talk to each other anymore.
Yeah. Circled back.
But he says it's a dingle hopper, which one of my favorite bits is this where if you're at like a bar and someone's doing karaoke and they do this song, I always see if there's a fork and I bring it to them. There's a big hit at the holiday party.
Nice.
And so he calls that a dingle hopper because you do your hair and he makes his seagull feathers all fluffy. And then, the pipe is a musical instrument called a snarfblat. You know, giving us that Disney Plus tobacco use warning.
Yeah.
I wonder somewhere someone's like,
funny.
sorry, you can't watch The Little Mermaid. Tobacco use.
Tobacco use.
So, and he mentions, oh, like it makes music, and she's like, music, the concert. My dad is gonna kill me.
Man.
She's such an 80s teenager. And I love
Yes.
that.
She really is just a latchkey princess.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, like, especially having just Aurora is such a 50s teenager, like, kind of like playfully, like, I might be into trouble, but oh no. And then Ariel's just like, ah.
Like that her concern
I'm
is,
miles from home.
Yeah.
like her concern is I'm gonna be in trouble and not, wow, I just let all of my sisters and like the audience down. And Sebastian, like,
Who worked so hard.
This is the pinnacle of his career, he says later, and she just decided not to show up.
Yeah.
Irresponsible.
Someone get that girl a Google Calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She needs it bad.
She needs those notifications. So they go down, to the bottom of the sea. And then I'm like, let me clarify. And so Ursula's eel minions, Flotsam and Jetsam, are spying on her with their eyes that form into like one bubble crystal ball that Ursula has.
Very cool.
And she's like, concerts. We used to have feasts when I was at the palace. And she eats a shrimp. The almond moms are shaking because she's like, I wasted away into practically nothing. I think the reason Ursula was exiled is because she invented student loans. I think, like, if you look at her, I'm like, that woman's a loan shark.
Interesting.
A lone octopus.
Yes, a lone octopus.
She correctly identifies Ariel as the weak link in Triton's family.
Yep.
Correctly.
Correct. She is how we would say, whenever we see a witch, what do we say, Hannah? Girl boss.
Listen, she is a girl boss. Like she literally has a small business, but I mean, I guess she doesn't really get good payments. She just gets these little creatures that she has in a garden. She's got a green thumb or a gray thumb, I guess.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I guess
she does. She has her own loan business.
Yeah.
She does.
Most
with very
witches...
favorable terms to her.
Yeah.
That's what makes her a girl boss, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
She knows. She went to law school.
Yeah.
She girl boss, gaslights, gatekeeps her way all over the ocean.
Literally a trident clad contract. Like, it can't be broken.
The king can't even break it. Yeah.
I think she went to Harvard.
Yeah.
She's very good.
With Cullen Jost. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because Mommy Fortuna had a business.
Show business.
Maleficent lied on her LinkedIn. She was
trying to be a girl boss. She was really
her business was not well run.
No. Everyone knew it was an MLM pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Forbidden Mountain
very thinly veiled.
Yeah. And then because the witches in Black Cauldron, we also called them girl bosses.
Yeah.
They did deals and bargains. Yeah. So you have yet to meet a witch that was not a girl boss in some form. Oh, the White Witch wasn't. She was more of a fascist.
Yeah.
She took girl boss to its
I would
full
not
conclusion.
call that a girl boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The full like evils of capitalism. Like, I'm gonna ban
the ultimate form.
Yeah. Banning your culture. Yeah.
After outright stealing it.
Yeah. Not allowing.
It's mine now. You can't have it anymore.
Yeah. Flowers. No flowers for you. Like, no flowers spring. For you. Yeah. All right. So we're Ariel's back at Atlantica, and Triton and Sebastian are rightfully pissed that she ditched her own concert, the pinnacle of Sebastian's career. He's a struggling artist. He may have royal patronage, but it's hard. You can lose that, obviously, especially with someone as temperamental as Triton. Flounder.
Yeah, he really does lose his place if he's like the
babysitter.
Royal. Yeah, he becomes like from the royal composer to a babysitter. It's like, yikes.
Yeah, we were messaging about this earlier. We were like, wait, what is Sebastian's job technically?
Is he funding his art through like what's it called? Like maybe a Patreon, maybe
I mean, he's according to Google, he is the court composer. that's his job. But I was so confused because I was watching it and I was like, why is he like attending Triton in his throne room? And why is Triton ordering him around like he's a regular servant?
Right.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
always thought he was like Triton's advisor. Like they're close, clearly.
Yeah.
He's asking him advice, like
Maybe
But
he's
like
really
your musician in residence is usually not the person that you see. Like you wouldn't send Mozart off to go like.
What if he's basically like the top advisor because he's like Triton's flounder. Like it was his little sidekick, and so now he's like his passion is music, but he's also the advisor because they're close friends from childhood.
That makes sense.
Okay, headcanon.
Yeah,
accepted.
Tiny egghood.
I was gonna say music maybe is just like spiritually important in Atlantica because they're mermaids, so like that's like a bigger job in mermaid society is court composer.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I like both of those.
And you know, King Ludwig of Bavaria was really into Tchaikovsky, so.
But he wouldn't have sent Tchaikovsky to go corral his 16-year-old, you know?
Yes.
Would he?
Like,
there's no way you can prove it. One way or the other.
Who's to say?
That's fair.
So, Flounder, I've always really hardcore related to Flounder because he like tries to defend her, but he accidentally outs that they went to the shore
surface
because he's like, and this seagull came, and he's like, this is this, and that is that, and he's like, seagull, and he goes off again, and he doesn't want her to be killed by humans on the surface, those evil barbarian fish eaters, and she's like, hashtag not all humans. Like, I get it. He doesn't want her to die, but also, like, he has no middle ground. It's like he's always screaming at her, like in almost every scene.
Yeah, he is like king of the sea. And the sea is harsh.
The sea is harsh.
Yeah. So I feel like it fits the personality.
Unpredictable. Yeah. It's got its calm moments and then suddenly a storm comes up. You know,
and then he always immediately feels bad. Like, was I too harsh?
Was I too hard on her? He also says something hilarious to me during this scene. He says, as long as you live under my ocean, you'll follow my rules, which is, you know, the classic, as long as you're under my roof, blah, blah, blah. But it's his ocean and she's a mermaid. She's going to live in his ocean for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
That's forever.
Yeah, he's like, deal with it.
Deal with it.
There's a great bit. One of the characters in the game Monster Prom is this mermaid princess. And the joke is that the Mermaid Kingdom is like an evil dictatorship. And she's like, we don't do execution. Daddy just disappears people that disagree with him.
Okay. Yikes.
That's not the same.
And she's always like spouting propaganda. It's great. So Sebastian is like, you gotta be tough on teenagers. He's every annoying Facebook uncle that like calls for like spanking back in public schools. Like, you gotta be tough on them, like kids these days. And then Triton's like, hey, royal composer, put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. I can't ask one of her sisters to go along with her.
There'd be too many women at once on scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Women talking to each other. Gotta cut that.
Yeah. Sleeping Beauty held that Bechdel test, highest Bechdel test score until Brave.
Does this? I don't think this movie passes the Bechdel test.
Well, Carlotta says you watch. Oh, but Ariel's not saying anything. She's like, oh, you wash up on a shipwreck.
Yep,
poor thing.
It's not a conversation.
Yeah.
No.
And the sisters don't talk like to each other. They just kind of sing about. Yeah. I don't know if it does.
So, Ariel sneaks off to the grotto with Flounder. We see her human collection, all her stuff. She sings Part of Your World about her desire to explore the human world. She wants to dance. She wants to touch fire. She wants to be free of her controlling father. This was a cultural reset. Like, the trope of the I Want song had always been around, but this like solidified it as like a thing.
Yeah.
This is like the I Want song. Yeah. It's a go-to at karaoke for me. Because, and I'll lie on the floor of the disgusting karaoke place.
Oh.
And I will swear a lot. Because like whenever she's like, what's that word? Fuck, burn, you know.
Burn.
Shit, what's the word?
Okay, you've mentioned karaoke at least 3 times, and now I need to go to karaoke with you.
I love a good karaoke. I've been a lot like the thing is I'm not a good singer, but people are like, "Do you want to do karaoke?" I'm like, "I'm sure. Let's go."
That's how karaoke is supposed to be done. People who do it well are doing it wrong.
Yes.
You're supposed to sing badly. That's the
Yeah.
point. If you're a good singer, you're supposed to pick something out of your range so that you sing it badly.
Or you're supposed to be really drunk.
That's
Yes.
too.
Really drunk.
Or at least pick something fun. If you're a good singer, don't do Celine Dion. Do like Baby Got Back. You know, like
Yes.
yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
So Sebastian's mad and she's like, "Don't tell my dad." And he's like, "It's okay. We just gotta, clear you out. We'll get you something hot to drink." I'm like, how does she drink things?
How?
Yeah. How do you make it hot?
They have like maybe the vents at the bottom of the ocean. And they have like little bottles, and you have to unscrew the bottle and go like I can use it like.
Yes, do that. Do that.
Like in space.
Yeah.
Like how astronauts have to drink in space.
But she sees a ship above, and she swims up to the fireworks, and she climbs up, and she sees Eric playing with Max, and she's like, "Hot guy, dog." Oh. Like she's got the hots like right away. She's like, "Oh," and it's a great little. I mean, I fall in love with him in that moment too. I'm like, yeah, like I see it. But Scuttle is like, she's like, he's so handsome, and Scuttle's like, looks kind of hairy and slobbery.
Never not.
That was pretty funny.
Never not funny.
And we get this little shout out to the story because Max runs up and sees her, and she's scared, and he just licks her face.
Yeah.
So cute. He's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Yeah.
He's the vibe check. He knows.
Yes.
It's like she's good. Yeah. And Grimsby they're celebrating Eric's birthday. There's a guy in the background that looks like a blonde Gru from Despicable Me.
Okay.
I did not clock him, but I believe
I'll have to find that.
He's not in a striped shirt.
Oh.
So that makes him stand out. But anyway, so Grimsby gives him this like Philip-esque statue, the one behind me, to celebrate his birthday, and he's like, "Ooh. Yeah, ooh.
It's an avocado."
Even the dog doesn't like it.
Yeah, the dog's like, "Ooh."
Ooh.
You don't know me at all. There's literally like a wham 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 sound in the music. It's wild.
He's like, "We want you to settle down with a girl." And he's like, "I'm a free spirit." He didn't want to marry the princess of Glowerhaven. He's like, "When I find the right girl, hit me like lightning." So we get this huge storm. The ship's burning up like the Jonas Brothers. It's falling apart. And Eric saves Max. Of course, he goes back for his dog. Like we love.
So good.
Yeah.
That solidifies him as just a good fucking person. I mean, he risks his life to save his dog.
Yeah. And we think he's dead for like a hot second. Like we see Max get on the boat with Grimsby and the other fellas, and then we can't see Eric.
Yeah.
And the ship just like explodes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like,
from the fireworks.
The gunpowder. Yeah.
So she rescues Eric. She swims up, she grabs him, she makes that decision, and she takes him to the beach. Scuttle puts his bird ear to his foot and is like, "I can't make out a heartbeat."
It's so cute.
It's
Scuttle's
so
such a
funny.
good character.
Yeah.
And Ariel's like, "No, wait, he's breathing." And she sings part of her world reprise about what would she give to be where he is, to see him smiling at her, and he sees her like bathed in light. And he's starting to wake up. Sebastian's flabber is gasted. His jaw hits the floor. And Scuttle's just like, whatever. But then she hears Max barking, and she hides. And she sees Grimsby come get Eric. And Eric's like, "There was this girl she saved me. And he's like, sure,
You
Eric,
had
let's
too
get
much
you to
seawater.
bed. Yeah, it's very like, sure, Grandma, let's go to bed. And then she reprises with the iconic water splash. You know, get me in front of a rock, I will be.
Yep.
Like Ariel is the main character, like in her
Mhm.
own world.
Yeah.
for
Yes.
sure.
She has main character syndrome.
Yeah,
For
she is like
sure.
she
doesn't notice anybody else around her. It's all
no.
her
Never.
singing, just
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's very, you know, it's a very 16-year-old girl. Not all teenagers are like that, but many are.
Mhm.
You know, they're still learning how to function. She's in love. And Ursula is watching her and she's like, "Oh, she's making it too easy." And she's like, she'd make a wonderful addition to my little garden. And you see all the swirling polyps of people. Is she gonna turn all the mer people into that? And then she's like, now I'm queen of the ocean.
I guess. Is that her
That's
plan?
that's good as an end goal.
Or was it all just practice until like she found the way to get to
get-
Triton?
Ooh, interesting.
Like she started small as like a small time witch and then is like building her way up.
Yeah, it's the business until
yeah.
until she finds a way to get what she really wants.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Ariel is mooning about, singing around, and this is where the sisters say the iconic line to the dad. Isn't it obvious, Daddy? Ariel's in love.
Love.
Which he is so into.
yeah.
Yeah, which is strange.
Well, I actually didn't think it was that strange. If we're kind of extending the metaphor of how like the Little Mermaid is a metaphor for like forbidden queer attraction. King Triton's really into the idea of Ariel having a boyfriend until he finds out that she's into a human.
Yeah. He
I
wants
thought it
to
was
be with
weird
a merman, yeah.
because she was just in trouble. Wouldn't he just immediately think this has got to be something? That's what I
think
thought
he's
was
thinking
strange.
maybe it'll ground
Maybe
it'll
she's
ground
fixed.
her. Like maybe she'll hang out in Atlantica more if she has a boyfriend.
Interesting.
And also that's something that I understand. I
True.
understand having a boyfriend and having that make you a little crazy and like distractible. I don't understand this obsession with like hoarding human garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a super, because I did always wonder, that doesn't seem like his vibe. And then that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I had King in the fanfic, Triton was both a sea god and a Duggar-esque Christian pastor. So
Ooh.
yeah.
Yeah. That's not good.
And so her collection of stuff was just like movie posters and Kesha CDs and
stuff she has to hide from him.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
my
Lane
goodness.
and Gilmore Girls with like the secret.
Yeah.
Ariel, she's making a plan to talk to Eric. She's gonna like go splash. She's just gonna talk to him as a mermaid. She's like, that's fine. And Sebastian's like, humans are cringe. The human world is a mess. And you're like, not wrong.
Totally right.
And he sings Under the Sea.
Under the sea.
Which is so good.
Under the sea.
The music in this movie alone. Just
every single song makes you want to go, what a bop.
Yeah, what a bop. No misses.
Such a bop.
And that's his whole thing too. So I love that he fixes everything via music.
Yeah, he's a composer. So he's like, this is what I know how to do. We're gonna do an Under the Sea epic,
How that didn't work for Ariel, I'll never know. I want to live under the sea because of that song.
Yeah,
me too.
She misses the end. I think that's why, because Flounder's like, I got a surprise for you, and they sneak off.
She didn't miss the big. She missed the big finish.
Yeah.
It's all hot ta under the water.
Which is again,
Sebastian, is that you?
Howard Ashman was the one who wanted to make Sebastian like Caribbean, like Jamaican, instead of he was initially British.
Oh no, that was the right call.
This is the correct call.
Yeah,
I was actually very relieved to see the trailer for the new Little Mermaid, and Sebastian is still Jamaican.
Yeah, like we could not. Don't give us. Yeah, no.
So
no
good.
British. And so, but he says that a line that's iconic to me. Somebody's got to nail that girl's fins to the floor, because my mom would always say that about my sibling. Because you'd be talking to them and they would just like disappear. Nail that girl's fins to the floor. This little seahorse guy. His name is Harold. I had a toy of him as a child.
I didn't realize he had a name. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I didn't either. He fetches Sebastian. And Triton's like, ooh, who is she dating? And Sebastian is rightfully terrified. His knees are a knockin'. And he spills that she saved Eric, a human. And Triton, again, up to 100. Like,
Yep.
what? And so Flounder must have friends because he got this huge ass statue of Eric.
Into
Yeah,
her
right.
I was
grotto.
wondering how to get it in there.
How did you do that?
Did he like have friends take it to the top? And he's like, don't you? I owe you you owe me a favor. No questions
Don't
asked.
ask.
Just push. We're gonna push the statue to the top of this cavern and hope it drops straight down.
And doesn't break. Hopefully there's enough
Uh-huh.
pressure in the water to stop it. And then
Ariel
instantly she starts role playing with it. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I
Ooh.
feel that.
She is a
She's gotten
Young
so
fan
child
girl.
vibes. Yep,
Mhm.
I get it. Young teenage vibes. I
This
feel
is
that.
this is her cardboard cutout of Harry Styles.
Absolutely.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Gone.
she's the patron princess of like fanfic writers, fandom, musicians, stands. Like she's living
Yes.
that life. And she's like, oh, run away with me? How sudden. And again, horribly
It is sudden.
embarrassing. Horribly embarrassing. She's doing her little role play. And then like with her friend in this cutout, and then her dad shows up.
Oh, the worst.
And he's like,
Cringe.
I told Kelsey during our Little Mermaid episode, but I'll tell all of your listeners now. This is only my second time seeing this scene since I became an adult, because this is only my second time watching The Little Mermaid since I became an adult, and I used to skip this scene every single time I watched it because it frightened me so badly.
oh yeah.
King Triton scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
Because he's like,
scary.
he's scary, and he's like, he's your dad, and he came to your room when you were doing something embarrassing, and then he started smashing all of your stuff. Like it absolutely scared the pants off me. I could not handle it as a child. I made my parents fast forward it for me every single time.
Aw.
It's so scary. It is
Yeah.
like, this was the scene that gave me something very visceral. Like this kind
Mhm.
of like rejection of her and everything about her, and why
Yes.
can't you just be the way I want you to be?
Yeah.
I'm just, I will enact violence until you fall in line.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally
Oh.
says that. He's like, maybe this will teach you. And he destroys
Yeah.
all her stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
if
like,
this is the only way to get through to you, so
Like,
be it. And
I
like,
found
gross.
all the magazines. I found
Yeah.
all of like the posters or the whatever. Like, and so I'm just
Mhm.
gonna wreck it until you like the
Yeah.
things I want you to like.
Yeah.
yeah.
And because he's like, he's a human, you're a mermaid, it's forbidden. She's like, you don't even know him. He's like, I don't have to know him. And she's like, he could have died. He's like, one
He's a
less to
fish
worry
killer.
about, a fish killer. And she's like, I love him. And that's when he's like,
Oh my
no,
god, I
no.
hate that line so much.
Mhm.
But Daddy, I love him.
But the thing is, I've heard many people say Ariel would have never gotten to the point where she's so desperate to go to Ursula and like have
Mhm.
even said, oh, I love him, if Triton hadn't been like pushing her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She would have nursed like a kind of a silly, hopeless crush,
Yeah. She would have role played
You
with
know?
that statue and then gotten bored.
and then gotten
Yeah.
bored, and she would have gotten over it and probably grown up.
Yeah, went
You
to
know?
Mer
Or she would have,
College.
or she would have enacted her plan with Flounder trying to flap around in the water to get his attention and do something
Yes,
silly
yeah,
like that.
She would have done
Yeah.
something else. She would have explored this part of herself in like a safer way if he
Yeah.
hadn't pushed her into doing something dangerous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because he made her feel unsafe and like very much she doesn't belong and there's something wrong with her in
Yeah,
her own
by
world.
denying a core part of like who
Mhm.
she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why it was so visceral watching him. Like, it always scared me, but like watching him blow up all her stuff that she worked so hard over many years to collect.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a button
He
book
had
where you could
20
press the
thingamabobs.
sounds. Yeah, they're all gone.
20.
They're all gone. He destroyed them all.
Not anymore.
Yeah. And so she's crying. Mermaids cry in this universe. And Flotsam and Jetsam show up and they're like, Ursula can help you. And she's like, and he's like, they're like, but imagine you and your prince together forever. So they immediately, Ursula doesn't understand the like human desire, like desire for the human world. She only understands, okay, Eric, like a tangible goal. And I think that's why I think there's some validity to the, it's all about doing whatever for a man, even though I don't think that's what the story is about, but because the man is like a thing you can visually see in this visual medium, and it's something that can be more easily obtained. It's less abstract. And so that kind of does become the focus of the movie. I think to say it's only about that is an unfair reading, but I get where people are coming from when they say that.
Yeah.
And that's all that Ursula understands too. Because she can't make a curse about the moment you feel you belong.
Yeah,
right. But Ariel isn't into it. She's like, no, thank you. And then they're like, oh, suit yourself. And they like throw the broken statue. And then she's like, wait. And Sebastian is like, no, don't go. She's evil. And she's like, go tell my dad. You're good at that.
Such a great comeback.
It's good.
Yeah.
You didn't even mean to tell him. He feels so bad.
He does. So I love Sebastian. I think
me too.
Just watching this, it's like I get it because I get like he wants to serve his king, but he also feels bad for this girl. He's just so stressed, and he's like, I didn't sign up for this.
He's like,
I'm a composer.
He's getting chased around by a chef.
I didn't have kids.
Didn't have kids.
There's a reason.
For this reason.
Choice.
So she goes to Ursula's spooky but dope dead sea monster lair.
So dope. Oh, metal as hell.
Yeah.
Again, another disappointing thing about the ride is I feel like they could have done more with like the Ursula lair thing. You know,
Bliss.
So she breaks through the polyps, and Ursula says, "One mustn't lurk in doorways. One might question your upbringing." Because she's like, "I know your dad, and he fucking sucks." She's a drag icon based off drag queen Divine. And she's like, you know, I can make you human yourself, you poor unfortunate soul. It's what I do. I'm a girl boss, but when people can't pay, I girl enslave them, you know.
It's just the price. It's just business. It's just good business.
Business.
The token, really, a trifle.
She's giving like Caitlyn Jenner kind of like, I support women and, being non-conforming, but really only for myself. It's just business. Everyone needs to follow the rules. No one wants to work anymore. That kind of energy. And Poor Unfortunate Souls is a banger.
So good.
Best song in the movie.
Probably, maybe arguably the best Disney villain song.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Easily.
I think of the fun ones, Poor Unfortunate Souls, if you want creepy, Hellfire, and those to me are the top two.
Oh, Cullen, you're exactly right. Villain song category frightening, Hellfire.
Yeah.
Villain song category fun.
Just be prepared is really close, but I think Poor Unfortunate Souls beats it out by just a hair.
I think it's the Ashman lyrics, honestly, like how clever he is, and like her whole
so funny
performance.
Oh, for sure.
And
body language.
And that octopus lady has an ass,
she got it going on.
Huh?
She does. She has curves. She looks great.
Shaking it, and she's just
I love when she's like at her vanity and she like squirts like the hair cream into her hands.
Yeah,
and then she
lipstick.
I'm pretty sure she kills a thing and then uses its blood on her lips. Love it.
Yeah,
so
iconic.
Here's the deal, sweet cheeks. Like,
well, and she's got a good like saleswoman patter to the song. Like, and honestly, like this sales tactic really works on me, where it's like, just don't stop talking to me. Just keep keep up a running pattern of telling me why I want this and why I need this and why I'm going to buy this. And
because if she gave Ariel time to think, she might be like, ooh, okay, maybe I'm.
Yeah.
And then she's got the hustle, like, okay, make your choice. This is it. I don't have all day.
I don't have all day. I'm a very busy
it's
woman.
so good.
Even though she's
Haven't
been
got all
waiting
day.
for her specifically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think she has all day.
A couple days at least.
Yeah.
But it won't cost much. Just a
Your
voice.
So
good.
the scheme is she can be human for 3 days. If Eric gives her the kiss of true love, she will remain human forever. If not, she becomes a mermaid. She belongs to Ursula. Her voice is payment. Just a token, a little trifle. And then she says the men up there, they don't like a lot of blabber. They think girl who gossips is a bore. So she doesn't like women who take up space. Clarifying, this is our
girl
villain.
who holds her tongue gets the man.
Which is
Girl
so
boss, gaslight, gatekeep.
Exactly. Which the thing is, the narrative disproves what she says. Because the moment, so we'll get there. We'll get there. But so Ariel is nervous. She says, I'll never see my father or my sisters again. But like Ursula frames it as it's framed for, many queer people, is it's a one or the other. You either conform or you go off, to the wildlife, like there's no middle ground that Ariel basically finds. She chooses, what I think in some, like obviously going with Ursula's plan, not a good idea, but the right choice of choosing love and looking towards her future. So her voice is taken, she gets legs. This is such, I feel bad.
Into the seashell.
We got the glowing hands, we got the underwater uterus thing or fetus form where she's transforming, and then she's naked and her friends scoop her up.
Yeah, because she doesn't have gills anymore. She can't breathe them underwater.
And Sebastian, because so that's the thing, people say, oh, she offered her legs, but she did very specifically say, I'll make you human.
Yep. And the most prominent thing that they can give her is legs. They're not going to show us her pussy. Like, come on. This is a Disney movie. They already edited out the penises.
And she's a teenager.
And she's a teenager.
I was not on that list. I did not subscribe to that OnlyFans. Like, no, thank you. Scuttle's like, wow, you look different. A haircut, new seashells.
So good.
And Sebastian's like, he has legs, you idiot. And he's like, I'm gonna march down back to Triton. He can get her to undo the contract, which no, he cannot.
He says to get your legs, to give up your legs and to get your voice back.
And he's like, and she's like, no. And he's like, go home with a normal fish and be completely miserable for the rest of your life.
Yeah, because he was gonna say, what, be happy?
Yeah.
He's a secret romantic.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
it's sweet.
Sebastian does the most in this movie.
Oh, Sebastian makes this happen.
He is carrying all of it. I feel like Ariel does absolute zero things to make Prince Eric fall in love with her.
We get proven that she's literate. She can write her name. All she needs to be is like, give me a scroll and some parchment and a feather, and I got you. I will explain everything.
I've always justified this as like she can write Atlantean.
Yeah,
she can write Atlantean. She doesn't write English.
Yeah, she doesn't
write English. But she understands it. Maybe this actually doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's complex. It's
complicated.
I mean, it's maybe like a lot of royal women were not as educated as royal men. Maybe she was taught to write her own name. End of list.
And that's it. She can just write her name.
Yeah.
She clearly didn't read the contract. So
no, she did not. So Scuttle dresses her in a sail, one of many iconic looks.
So cute.
She does have many iconic looks. This is one of them. Although the second that Eric is going to be running toward her, the dress instantly becomes slightly more attractive. And I was like, it's missing that one random lump on the side.
Yeah, it becomes very form-fitting. Yeah, it does have pockets.
Scuttle is a true feminist. He knows all about pockets.
If you sold a version of that dress on the Disney Store website,
Absolutely. I
You
would
be
buy
buying
it.
You would buy that, you know.
I would look frumpy as hell, but I would buy
it. Just on the beach, just doing the pose,
it.
posing on rocks.
I would just, sitting on a rock.
Yeah.
She's feeling herself. She feels sexy as hell in that outfit.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
And because
Super cute.
Max smells her and is taking Eric to her. Max brings them together, and she's like, "This is my moment. I'm gonna be cute on this rock." Like,
Yeah.
She's like touching her. She's like doing this.
Yeah.
Like, am I sexy? Am I cute?
And Eric's like, yeah. He's like, "Oh, hi. Have we met before?" And she's like, "Yeah."
He's so
And-
friendly.
Yeah. Is he friendly to everyone who watches on shore like this? And then she's like, she does, "Oh, I can't speak." And then she like tries to explain it, and he's like, "Oh, well, you're not the one I was looking for." And she's heartbroken, but he's still like, "Oh, let's get you back in. Let's take."
Yeah, he's
take
like,
care
you
of
must
it."
have really been through something.
Right.
A
She does
shipwreck.
that smile when she looks back to her friends. She's like,
He's like, I'm doing it.
it's
I mean,
so cute. Yeah.
She's lucky. She got in that palace day one. They
Yeah, super easy.
first 30 minutes on
Yeah.
land. They knew where to drop her, I guess. Like they knew, okay, let's leave her on this beach. That's where she left Eric. So she's getting a bubble bath from Carlotta, the maid, and Sebastian is in the pocket of the cloth, and he's dragged around with the laundresses. Another iconic line: "If Eric is looking for a girl, I know a couple of highly available ones right here." Because would you not be the people saying that at work? If you work in
Absolutely.
the
Of like, I do not get what he sees in her.
yeah, like some girl off the sea. I've been working here for years.
Yeah. If he's into some like girl dressed in rags who we found on the beach, why isn't he into me?
Yeah.
Dressed in rags and washing his underwear for the past 3 years. So hand washing. So Sebastian sneaks off. He ends up in the kitchen with Chef Louis singing Les Poissons. Truly
Good.
random moment, but a wonderful cartoon antic.
Comedic relief. That's just such a cute comedy moment.
That's
So
also
funny.
horrifying.
That's absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
It's probably why I
Very
love it so
horrifying.
much.
Yeah, but spoiler, he gets his comeuppance and
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the end
does.
it works out.
Yeah, so Sebastian escapes, and Carlotta is like, "You're a mess." Like, she's like, "Oh," because he trashed the kitchen, the chef.
Yeah.
She's so
His
mad at him.
mustache was on fire.
Yeah. I feel like he's
and
done
he's
this
all
before.
embarrassed. He's just like,
Sorry it happened again. You need to stop taking the gummies before work.
Sometimes I just freak out. Like, I thought the crab was talking to me.
And so we're at the banquet hall, and if you look closely, you can see a portrait of Philip and Aurora by
Oh, for
Sylvester
real? That's so
Francis.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really
noticed that.
cool. Does that like imply that Eric is their descendant?
Maybe that makes sense.
Like, is
to
this the same
me.
kingdom?
Or like an offshoot, like a royal offshoot.
Yeah, or this is the summer palace now or something.
Yeah, this is like this is where they send the prince,
This is
to
the
train him.
colonizer palace.
Well, I just was just thinking about it. Like, well, if this is set in the Caribbean,
It's the colonizer palace.
yeah, that's fair.
So Ariel makes her big entrance in her pink dress. How do we feel
Another
about the pink
iconic.
dress? Because
Iconic.
I think it's iconic,
Gorgeous.
but it has some haters.
Doesn't get enough
Who?
love.
Why?
You're like,
Let
none of
me
them are in
speak
this
to them.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so pretty and she looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off the shoulder.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, because in the park she wears green.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah. Which I
I
think
like
is
the pink dress. I
Yeah.
like pink and red hair a lot. I think that's a cute combo.
yes.
Good
As
look.
someone who is
Yeah.
at times ginger, I
Mhm.
also like to wear pink, and people will be like,
Hey, look,
"That's
you're
not a
wearing pink right
rule."
now.
Yeah. People will be like, "That's against the rules," and I'm like, "The rules are
What?
against
No, it's not.
me." So
I don't know. I don't think that's
Pink
a
and
rule.
red hair looks
Yeah,
great.
you're like the rules aren't against me because I look fantastic.
yeah, like, sorry. she is wild, goofy, combing her hair with a fork, and it's awkward but
At
funny.
the dinner table.
At the
She's
dinner
so
table.
Love it.
confident.
She's
like,
I
this
know
I'm
She's
this
so
like-
is.
human.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a fun
She's
scene,
so
and
pretty.
she blows the snarf flat, and
Oh my god, that's so good.
This
right
is
in
why
his face.
anthropologists have to be so careful what they tell people.
yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Scuttle's doing a bad job.
Mhm.
But Eric's laughing, and and they're like, "Oh, that's the first time I've seen you laugh in weeks." And here's the thing: so she's silly, she's awkward, she's grabbing her attention, and fire engine red hair, a bright pink dress. She's taking up space. She's
Mhm.
not like, even compared to the mermaid in the story, she's not like languishing in the corner. She's like, "Ah, it's me," and
Yeah.
so that's
Mhm.
the whole, like, when Ursula's like, "Oh, the men don't like someone who grabs attention." Like, Ariel can't help it. She's, even without her voice, she's
Mhm.
grabbing attention, and you see how she feels in any scene she's in.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
She's effortlessly charming, even if she's being cringy. It's great.
Yeah.
It's true.
And Eric loves that. Eric
Manic
loves
Pixie
that, like,
Dream Girl.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
But at
A little
least
bit.
it's her story,
Oh yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love a Manic Pixie Dream Girl,
Yeah.
so I'm a sucker for that.
Well, because, even 500 Days of Summer, the point is that he didn't understand her. And, like,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
put a
was-
lot of expectations on her that were unfair.
Yeah.
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 So Grimsby's like, maybe a tour of the kingdom. Would you like that? He's like, they're like gazing at each other. Oh, yeah, yeah. He's like, let's eat before this crab walks off my plate.
She's already saved Sebastian. He's just
Such
like,
a good
nothing is
line.
going right for Grimsby.
He's having a bad day. Sebastian's horrified, and like, what this crab man goes through for this girl is a lot. And that's never addressed, how they're gonna deal with eating fish. Maybe that's what they do with people who disagree with King Triton. Send you to the fishing quarters.
I don't know, because like a lot of the song Under the Sea, like a good chunk of it is about their fears surrounding being eaten by
Yeah.
humans
And
specifically.
King Triton even calls them like fish eaters, so they
Mhm.
clearly
Yeah.
don't eat fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are
That's
fish, I
bad.
guess. Maybe they just eat seaweed.
Yeah.
They're all vegetarians.
Everybody's
Yeah.
vegetarian.
But like, what's gonna
That's
happen
cool.
now that Ariel's, spoiler, is on land?
She's just I don't know, eating the lettuce. She is very skinny.
Yeah,
Like-
she is
She's
tiny.
licking lettuce leaves anyway. Like it's
Yeah.
not.
She's on the goop diet. So she sinks into her big comfy ass bed. And Sebastian gives her another, so many iconic lines. The iconic advice. You gotta bat your eyes like this. You gotta pucker your lips like this. But this is key, because this is the idea of non-verbal communication. So this whole, when Keira Knightley says, don't give up your voice for a man on whatever talk show, the whole concept of the voice is a symbol of all of her agency and expression and communication is extremely ableist. Not to sound like a TikToker, but like, she clearly conveys how she's feeling. And I understand when we're talking about concepts like consent, like, we want to focus on the verbal yes, because so many people abuse what, like, nonverbal communication, or like, like
Yeah.
the signs. But some people are in situations where that's not, I mean, most people who don't speak verbally speak with sign language, but still, like, she is able to communicate what she wants. And to say people, the only way to communicate is verbally, a little icky.
No, that's
Mhm.
such a good point. I love that so much.
Thank you, because like, you see it in her. Like,
Yeah.
you're never like, oh, I just lost track of Ariel. I've heard people say,
Oh,
she's so
yeah.
fun under the sea, and then she's kind of boring on land, and you're like, excuse me,
No,
like,
she's still
Yeah.
just as vibrant, just as
Yeah.
engaging.
Uh-huh.
Like
You
just
always
as
know what she's thinking.
Yeah. And she's
Yeah.
still really confident and adventurous. And like when he takes her out in the town, like she grabs his arm and yanks him around, and
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's
Like-
the next part is like they're running around town. She's in a bright ass blue dress with a huge bow. She is,
I
Iconic.
love
Cute. Yeah,
this
so
I
dress.
love
This
me
look
too.
is so good.
I want this outfit.
and she's
Mhm.
taking up space. She's interrupting puppet show. She's like, let's go dance. Let's look at this stuff. She's like, has all this stuff she got from the town. This
Here,
is
hold
like,
my baguettes. I'm gonna drive.
yeah. And she's like going all fast and furious, like jumping
Mhm.
over cliffs and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, and he's so into it because like after like she freaks him out by jumping over
Yeah.
the cliffs, like
Yeah.
then I noticed like he does like a big stretch and
Yeah.
like kind of
He, like,
puts his
puts his-
hands behind his head, like he's chilling, he's letting her drive, like
Yeah.
he's like, all right, you know, like you got it.
And I love that the very few of the Disney princesses ever fall into the not like other girls, which is something I don't think we support them for enough. The closest is Belle because you got the other girls in town being like, over Gaston.
The floozies.
The floozies, the bimbettes. Yeah. But like generally it's like they're not, Ariel isn't like, oh, the other, he says, oh, that princess glowered a lot, but it's not like, oh, all the other girls suck and Ariel's just so cool. It's just like she's cool and she's the right vibe for this particular guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the movie, like we don't really see her sisters much, but also
Yeah.
the movie doesn't disparage her sisters either.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
seem fine. Like
Yeah, they're just doing their own thing, you know?
yeah.
So that's what I like, is that like Ariel's quirkiness isn't like a contrast against like the basics, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
It's just like she's just fun. And I think that's one of the great things about the Disney princess franchise in general is, I mean, it has a lot of issues, but like a lot of those characters are like, they're not concerned about being different than other girls. They're Haley Steinfeld, they're like most girls. That's their
Mhm.
that's their
Yeah.
branding. Yeah. Meanwhile,
Totally agree.
Triton is looking for her, and he's upset. He knows he fucked up, but like all her friends are up there, and they're like, "Is it happening? Are they kissing?" And they're like, "Not yet."
cute.
But they're on a boat ride,
Mhm.
and Scuttle is trying to make it romantic with a
Again,
so
everybody
good.
doing the most to make this happen.
I know, they're all so invested. And he casually jokes about euthanizing Scuttle. Like
Yeah.
somebody should put that part out.
Of its misery. Uh-huh.
When your
Well,
friend jokes about
'cause
euthanizing
Eric doesn't understand what's happening. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
like Kiss the Girl must be a very confusing song for him.
And she's all embarrassed. She's just like, oh my
Oh, I love
Oh my
it.
God.
The faces she makes it.
So good. Yeah.
And then
Again, you always know what she's thinking.
exactly. And Scuttle's like, or Sebastian's like, you gotta take matters into your own hands. I related to him in this moment. So he just like we're throwing together a musical number. He gets the
Uh-huh.
ducks and the flamingos and all the
The
creatures.
turtles,
The turtles. They're doing Kiss the Girl.
frogs.
And he tries to guess her name. Mildred.
She looks at it, she goes,
Ugh. Sorry to anyone named Mildred.
Sorry,
Which is
Mildred's
rude.
out there.
It's very rude.
And
Wow,
then
Ariel.
Sebastian's like, Ariel. And then he's like, oh, that's kind of pretty.
That's kind of pretty.
Kind of pretty. I hate
Apparently,
when
it's
people say kinda.
only in the English version where he says kinda. In most, he just says that's pretty. And I'm like, I wonder if it's just like trying to be like a cool 80s teenager.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of pretty.
It's kind of pretty,
I prefer that. I like that because that makes more sense than just like
He's
Yeah.
like
That he's
underhanded
negging her.
compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like he's negging her.
No. But it is,
No.
I guess I was like, kind of pretty.
Kinda
Wow.
pretty,
Okay.
Eric.
What kind of name is Eric?
uh-huh.
That
you
sounds
know-
kind of basic.
Kind of big. My sibling dated someone very briefly whose name was Eric with starting with an A, and so it's always like Eric. So we'd say
Eric.
their name. And so she's like, she's giving him the eyes, and he's super shy. I think it's super cute how he's kind of like, I don't know. And then they're about to kiss, and then boat flips over, Flotsam and Jetsam tip them over. Again, missed ride opportunity. Have your like
Being
cart
flipped
flip over.
over?
Like not literally, but Disney would find a way, to make it feel like,
Right.
oh, I'm being flipped over.
They're gonna dump you out into a lake.
Yeah.
So you'll get hit by the next ride.
So Ursula's like, that was close, too close. And she uses this trapped butterfly and the stolen voice to cheat. Get yourself human. I wonder if the butterfly is a reference to transformation, because butterflies transform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
That's a really good
shell.
point.
Dawn's the seashell.
Dawn's
I
the
was wondering
seashell.
that. It's kind of sad because it's like you can see the butterfly is alive and she just throws.
Throws it.
I mean, she is a witch.
She's a
so.
witch. Again, like in Narnia, that witch just killed that butterfly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric, meanwhile, he's playing the tune, and Grimsby, solid advice. You know what's better than a dream girl? Obviously, nothing can beat the musical Dreamgirls. What's better than a dream girl?
A dream girl.
Is one of flesh and blood who's right before you. Basically, like, you have this nice girl who makes you happy, and she's here. Like, don't be caught up on some person. Sure, grandma, she saved you from the ocean.
Yeah.
Like,
I love how much Grimsby like is into this.
yeah.
Because
He ships it.
He meets her. Yeah, he totally ships it. The instant he meets her, and sees the way Eric interacts with her, he's like, "Ooh, I like this. Like, she's cute.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
Chemistry." Yeah.
And so he waves to her, and he throws the flute away, and he's basically about to go up and probably kiss her. Like, he's about to like knock on that door, and then Ursula snoops in. Vanessa,
singing on the beach.
Yeah, haunting voice, and it like entrances him.
Yeah, he's under a spell for sure.
Oh yeah.
And
he's
not
all
like in
like
the romantic
dead
way,
ahead. Yeah,
like literally under a spell.
which makes sense, because how many rom-coms are there where the person is with some like terrible other partner and there's like no good reason, and then like honestly, spell's the only way this makes sense.
Yeah, it has to be witchcraft,
because otherwise this person sucks.
Yep.
So the next morning, Scuttle is like, "You're getting married. You know, I heard the news. Congratulations."
So sad.
So sad. And she's so excited, and she's running down the CGI stairs to find out to hear about her wedding. And then she sees Eric with Vanessa, and Grimsby's like, "Oh yeah, I guess she was real. Let's prep the wedding." And Eric's like, "Right now, this afternoon. Like,
it has to be today."
Those poor vendors.
Yeah. Grimsby's like, "Okay."
Oh, yeah. What a scramble.
Yeah, they're calling all the wedding cake vendors.
Rude.
All the appetizers, all the nobility got to get ready.
Drop
all the servants,
everything and get on a boat.
Yeah, those servants who like, "Oh, I plan to clean out the chicken coop today. No, I'm dressing Madame."
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
and Ariel's face in this scene is just so heartbreaking.
Oh, and she like turns and she's like, how could this be? And she like runs off crying, and Vanessa is just like, "Gotcha, bitch."
It's great.
I still love her.
I mean, if you're gonna be evil, do it with style. You know,
yeah.
I think that's
be a Vanessa.
The top lesson we've learned in this podcast is if you're gonna be an evil witch, do it with style.
Do it with a little style.
Yeah.
You know, own it. Evil and loving it is the best villain trope.
Yeah, that's sometimes what I miss, and that's why, you know, the tortured villain. Sometimes I'm like, you know what, just have fun.
No,
yeah,
get out of here.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
I'm loving it.
And then so Scuttle flies by, and he hears Vanessa. So this is Jodie Benson herself singing. I'll have that Little Mermaid, and the ocean will be mine. And she's like crushing stuff, and you see Ursula in the mirror, and Scuttle is like, So Ariel, he's like, this is what he says. "Have I ever been wrong before? I mean, when it's important."
I mean, when it's important.
Like, you've been wrong.
He knows that he's an amateur anthropologist at best.
Yes, he knows he's full of shit most of the time.
Yeah. He's like, but when it's important, come on, guys, think about it.
Because Ariel, she's weeping as the sun sets, uninvited to the wedding.
On the dock.
I didn't remember that. I didn't remember that she wasn't even invited.
She's I'm like, she should be in her speak now era, but she just can't speak.
That's true.
Yeah.
Bummer.
She can speak later though. She can speak later. And so she's like, okay, it's Ursula. She just dives in the water. No plan. She's like, I'm going. And so Sebastian is like, okay, Flounder, take her to the ship. I'm gonna get Triton. Scuttle, stall that wedding. And a great Disney movie has a great climax. I love a good, like, Frozen, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast. They've all had quality climaxes with like everything happening, and it's just the energy is ramping up. So I love this scene where Scuttle is like flying around and like, come on, guys, you gotta stall that one. We get the seals, we get the birds, we got everybody.
Just squawking. And everyone's like, oh, okay. That's the call.
No questions asked.
Like, he goes and he finds all of the loudest, like, grossest ocean animals he can find.
Yeah. And they're down to clown. They're like,
they
sure.
are
They're ready.
Seals are always down to clown.
Yeah. Because we're at the wedding. Vanessa straight up kicks the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's when you know she's a true villain. Everything else we could have forgiven up until that point, perhaps. Then she kicks Max.
Yeah.
Fuck
Max
her.
growls, and she basically like kicks him in the face.
with her heels.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's when you know Eric's under a spell, because he wouldn't say anything. Or he didn't say anything.
Yeah. When he ran into a fire to save that dog.
Yeah.
Like,
and then we get the bishop, who allegedly this is the famous boner. I couldn't see it in this.
No,
he has a boner.
I don't know if it was real, but there was rumor, at least, that in the very old cuts of the movie that he had a boner.
It looks, and then the animators
edited
it
out.
Yeah.
Many. Yeah. So it's definitely edited out.
The animators.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it in like stills. I don't think I've ever seen it when I watched the movie, which always makes me wonder, like, who's like looking for this? Because I've seen this movie a lot, and the bishop's like dick just never crossed.
It had to have been like a very, very early copy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And but someone like
I think they said it was supposed to be his knee.
And it wasn't even really like, it didn't look like a dick. It was just like a triangle that moves up and down real fast, and then it like disappears.
Yeah.
I think the only people that would have noticed it would have been very, very bored parents who are watching this movie for the 56th time.
They're like,
and they're like,
wait, was that a boner?
Is that a boner?
Yeah.
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 I mean, apparently the prince in Snow White in the final scene like shimmies a little bit because it was like an animation error. I don't think I've ever seen it, but Walt was like freaking out, and his brother was like, we gotta finish the movie, let the prince fucking shimmy. Like
you're just gonna have to let it go.
Does of this?
Just let him shimmy.
Just a little
shimmy.
Cool.
So the animals show up, and I just always look like the birds are flying around, the starfishes on her face. The seals are bouncing her, the dolphins blasting her face.
Eric not doing anything.
He's just like,
the priest still doing the ceremony.
Yeah.
Because he's a doll. Like he is on autopilot.
Yeah.
And I don't think like anybody in the audience though even like notices what's going on. Everybody's just like, huh.
Well, the people are kind of like, as the animals crash around the cake and stuff.
It's so strange.
This is a wild day for anyone attending this wedding.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, I at a certain point I want to stop and go through that person's day. But Scuttle is squawking at her, and then she's like, "You little," and is like trying to strangle him, and then Max is like, "I'm biting this bitch in the ass." Like, karma is me. Like,
yeah, because doesn't Scuttle grab onto the shell?
Yeah. And so he grabs on because she got bit in the ass, she lets go Scuttle, and he can pull the shell. I just thought the scene was so fun as a kid, where they're like trashing the wedding. I always loved the animal friends showing up. And so Ariel arrives just in time as it breaks, and the voice comes to her. Dramatic reveal, and then instantly Eric is freed of the spell and is now like, "You're the one." So like the voice,
she was always the one.
She was always the one. So they couldn't get together until she got her voice back. So even if you're going with a hyper realistic voice is symbol for agency. She needed the voice.
Once she has the voice back, like she's free to choose now. I guess she wasn't.
Allegedly. And so she's like, "I wanted to tell you, but," and they kiss. It's too late. The sun sets. And she's like, "You're too late," because she already is using the Pat Carroll voice. She's like, "Get away from her!" And then she's like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like crazy haired.
Yeah.
Transforms into Ursula's crawling.
Yeah, I love how it
it's
like
so
rips
freaky.
open. I love the
Yeah.
memes where it's like me taking off my work clothes when I get home from the day.
Oh, I've never seen
Yeah.
that. That's so good.
Me taking off my
That's
bra at
funny.
the end of the day.
Yeah. And then also, this is where I want to track these people's day. So you're told your prince is getting married today. Be ready. You get on this boat. He's acting weird. The bride kicks a dog. Suddenly, animals are attacking and very much attacking her specifically. And then
While the priest is still going.
and the prince is just standing there. Random girl gets on the boat. A voice pops out, goes into her. The prince goes and makes out with her. She turns into a mermaid. And then the bride explodes into an octopus lady, crawls across the ship, and grabs the mermaid.
Best day
Yeah.
ever.
Like, what the fuck?
And they stand up and they're
Wild
like,
day.
"Can I go now?"
Can I go? Is this still
I have
open bar?
Yeah,
It's still open bar. I better turn in my drink tickets.
There is I think you can I didn't see this watch, but you can see like the King and the Duke from Cinderella in one of the back scenes.
Oh, that's cool.
Fun.
Yeah, they're definitely using the open bar.
Like,
But
wait, does this mean we're not getting dinner?
yeah. Like, is the food still there? Because with the cake I know got trashed. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is
That's
also
right. He just slices through the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she says, "So long, lover boy," because Ursula, she knows Eric's favorite Taylor Swift album and is not impressed.
Uh-huh.
He's wrong if that's his favorite one.
She's a Reputation girl.
The correct
sure.
answer.
So Triton go because he's like, "I got bigger fish to fry," and Triton's like, "Hey," and he can't break the contract. It's giving Biden. It's like, I want to help, but I can't. And then. But she's like, "Oh, I'll trade for you." So now he's giving Aslan. He trades for Ariel.
Uh-huh.
And he becomes a little polyp, and she's like, "Daddy."
He's
So
so cute.
got the
I
mustache.
still
The
love
part
him
though,
as a
where like
polyp.
With the
she's
mustache,
like
yeah.
she's like half transformed. I never noticed that before,
Yeah.
but she's like almost a polyp. That's
Yeah,
like
it's
freaky.
It's
Yeah.
really creepy.
So Ariel always goes with Daddy. Belle was Papa. I mean, Aurora does not address her father.
I don't think they ever speak.
Yeah.
Not once.
So let's keep track of what these girls call their dads, because I don't think Anna and Elsa, I think they maybe said father. Yeah. So we got father, blank, Papa, Daddy.
Love it.
And so she's got the crown and the trident, and this is her time. This is her time.
She's
to
loving
shine.
it.
Ariel,
I love the cackling.
Yeah.
It's so
Again,
good.
it's
It's
like
A+
deep.
cackling. Yeah.
I need Hannah to come visit me so we can play villainous and you can play as Ursula.
Okay.
Yeah. But Ariel is like, "You monster." She straight up attacks her and almost dies, but Eric harpoons Ursula.
Yeah.
And then she tries to kill Eric, who like swims up, and then Flotsam and Jetsam drag him down. But like Flounder, Sebastian, Ariel, they do a combo. Like Sebastian and Flounder get the eels away, and then Eric gets away, and Ariel deflects the blow, and she blows up her own poor little poopsies.
Oopsies.
My baby.
My
She had one weakness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this
And
is
now she can just go fucking
Yeah.
ham.
Now she's going
Berserker
ham. Like,
mode.
Gonna grow 18 million stories high.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
raging.
yeah.
The Kraken.
She's growing big. She's controlling the ocean. The waves obey her every whim. She's raising shipwrecks. She's trying to straight up kill Ariel because Eric's like, "I'm not going to lose you again." And they're like blown apart. Like they're on top of her and they're falling down. Such a great scene. And they're like torn
Yeah.
apart. And she's trying to blast Ariel with the trident.
She creates a whirlpool.
Yeah. Again, so many missed things. It would be so fun in a ride.
Yes.
And so Eric mounts this ship and he impales her with the ship, like through her body, struck by lightning, impaled, gruesome death. Now, shout out to remember when I sent you the meme where it was something about like, oh, my fall plans, and then whatever new strain. My fall plans was Ursula with the crown. That was like whatever new strain of COVID was Ursula impaled. And the caption was, shout out to Eric impaling Ursula. Was it worse than when he impaled Ariel to make melody? Like,
wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow.
So her guts are fallen and the polyps are freed. They're zooming up,
So her cartilage.
Yeah, it's so
you're right. Kelsey's on the scene right now.
Yep. Reporting live from Ursula's lair.
all her little bits and pieces.
Ooh, and
Gross.
Triton's back, and Ariel's watching sadly, and Sebastian's like, children need to be free to live their own lives, just like I always say. And Triton's like, bullshit.
You always say that? Okay.
Sure,
Okay.
Hey, whatever the king wants to hear.
yeah,
I get it.
he's
That's
the
what
composer.
I always say.
Yeah, he's like, I need those as long as those checks clear.
Uh-huh.
As long as I get definitely need
fuck?
a holiday bonus this year after I just
Uh-huh.
gotta pay
Earned
for that
it.
late Poisson's therapy. Yeah. And he's like, the only problem is how much I'm gonna miss her.
Aw.
And he sends the sparkles up, and she's in her purple sparkly dress. Another
Best
iconic
dress.
look.
This is
So
my
good.
favorite dress of all Disney princess ever. Like, it's so sparkly and pretty. I'm like, how do they even do that?
And she just comes out of the water like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. And they kiss, and then we cut to the wedding. It does not clarify when this wedding is for all the people. Like, we don't know how much time they took to get married.
The
Maybe
next
they gave the
day.
vendors some time to prep all that.
I think they were like, Eric's like, I don't think I want another wedding for a couple years. Let's just take our time.
Take our time with this one.
Yeah.
Let's get to know each other and talk.
Yeah. Let's build some inter-kingdom relationships.
Yeah.
So Max is so happy. He's licking them. She hugs Scuttle and Flounder because Scuttle lifts Flounder up for her. Grimsby and Carlotta weeping. The sisters waving goodbye. Ariel and Triton hug, and she says, I love you, Daddy.
Aw.
And Eric bows to him, and it's like the final, like they're together. Reprise, part of your world. He makes a straight up rainbow. Triton makes a
He
rainbow.
does.
That's gay
He's
rights.
decided he's gonna be a hashtag ally now. And so he
Hashtag
puts a
ally.
rainbow up.
Yeah. And we end with this final kiss. So yeah, this movie, as I said, this movie said gay rights, and
It did.
Mhm.
it is because it's about, yes, pining is part of the gay experience, but you can also find happiness, and you can still have connects with your family, even if that's not the world you're gonna stay in. Like, I think it's so important to have this story. So I don't think it's a shallow movie, even though it's a simple
I love that
movie.
perspective so much, Cullen. That's so just beautiful and important.
Yeah, it's just like, I think that's, there is a way. Yes, Disney movies are, especially princess movies, are very patriarchal. Especially they end with the girl marries the guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But so yes, I'm not saying they're above critique. It's just like there's sometimes people read it in the worst possible way, and it's like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
I saw this TikTok where this woman was talking about being in a film class, and this professor was like shitting on Disney movies, and this woman of color in hijab says, well, I thought Little Mermaid, she saves Eric a couple times, and she's like, oh, you think the professor is like, you think the movie where the woman gives up her voice is feminist, and then everyone laughs at her, and she's like, and I never spoke in that class again. And it's like this sad thing, and the TikToker didn't even comment on it, but I'm like, wow, like in the name of feminism, you were shamed and silenced for not even like an anti-feminist take, for just an alternative, you were
an
shamed.
alternative reading of this movie.
Yeah. And it's like, how is that? Like, you stop speaking. So if you're going for that literal like voice thing, like, how is that feminist? So I think it's important to let people like discuss things and have different opinions.
Yeah.
I think that's such an interesting point. Because that used to be my perspective on this movie for sure. That like, oh, The Little Mermaid is a really shallow story about a girl who gives up everything for a man. And I actually held that opinion until relatively recently. I think it took reading the original fairy tale for me to realize that there were other things going on here and other themes. But that is kind of an interesting thing because I think about where that comes from. And I think that a lot of that does come from my dad did not like my sister and I watching this movie. He always tried to point us. He always wanted to watch Beauty and the Beast with us because he considered that to be like a better film for little girls to watch because the main character reads books and loves her father and goes and rescues him. And in this movie, it's like every dad's cis heteronormative worst nightmare. That like your teenage daughter is going to fall in love with some teenage boy, and you remember being a teenage boy, and she's going to ignore you about the danger, and she's going to run off with him. So it's like, so he definitely saw that movie from exactly that this is not a feminist film perspective, and didn't want us taking in what he believed to be the message. So he steered us away from it a lot. And so lately I've been wondering like how much of that is the reason why I didn't like this movie very much and had the opinions I had about it.
That is a reading of the film that makes sense. Like it is
absolutely,
it's like is based in text, but I think there are different ways to look at it. And you know, there's also we talk a lot about the core of the story and how easily something is changed. So Sleeping Beauty, the core is a woman with no agency over her own life in almost every version. And that in some ways is almost easier to fix than say Beauty and the Beast, the core is always a girl captor love story, you know. And that, I mean, I think the Disney movie does it very well, but I think it's harder to fix because the live action remake tried to like fix it, and I'm like, I think you made it worse.
There's no fixing that one. You just kind of have to accept that within the world of the story, this is fine. Like,
and so Little Mermaid at its core is about like the sacrifice you make for love and for belonging, and that can be bad, and that encourages people to give up things that maybe they shouldn't for love. But there's also anything worth having typically takes work and sacrifice, and so does love. You know, you can't have everything you want all the time. So it's like well, how do we adapt this story? Because like, even the Snow Queen is about like a friendship that falls apart and comes back together. And so Frozen did that in the loosest of terms.
The loosest possible way.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun one.
So that's always like the core. That's what in this watch of these movies for the podcast, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, what is our central theme that carries through the versions? What else does everyone think of the movie and its vibes, its aesthetic?
Beautiful. Like it looks gorgeous. It sounds gorgeous.
Yeah. I agree. Very beautiful. I love the work that they do with the colors. I don't know if you noticed, but like whenever there's a sad moment or a scary moment, all the colors dim except for the main focus, like Ariel or Ursula, like all the colors around just become gray. Or really desaturated. It's really a unique, I mean, obviously it started the Disney Renaissance.
It's a pretty like perfect film for what it is. It executes every single thing that it does flawlessly. It's really good. I really love just the fully painted backgrounds. I'm sad we don't see that anymore. Because it's just, I think it's such a really beautiful way to do it. Like I like the more like, you know, typical digital animation styles that we see from recent films, but I really wish that, you know, we'd bring back traditional animation a little bit every once in a while. It would be really nice to see, because this is just a gorgeous film.
Yeah, and we have some great music too, a great score. I mean, I think we agreed that we have A tiers like Part of Your World, Poor Unfortunate Souls, Under the Sea, Kiss the Girl. And even the other ones like Fathoms Below, Daughters of Triton, Le Poisson are at least B tier, C tier. Like they're not bad. They fit their function. They're not supposed to be the showstopper.
Yeah, but they're very good. And like you know, like we were talking about earlier, this movie really does set the standard for everything that comes after. This movie absolutely changed the way people make children's films and animated musical films in general. It's like every trope in this movie wasn't a trope necessarily when this movie came out, and it set the standard for everything else. And it's great. It's iconic.
There's a
It deserves its
reason.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's talk our protagonist, Ariel. Do we root for her?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I didn't talk about this very much. She is my least favorite Disney princess. I do find her incredibly selfish.
I mean, yeah.
Everybody else is out here doing the most, and she's there sitting there like sleeping like a baby. But she is a teenager. I also feel like maybe she has ADHD a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
she's kind of, yeah.
Yes, I very much identify with that. Like, oh shit, that was today.
Yeah, bugs the absolute
thing.
shit out of me and makes me really like unreasonably angry at her. And she's a little bit of a bully to Flounder, like calling him a guppy when
Yeah.
they literally just almost got like killed by a shark.
Yeah, he had very reasonable, well-founded fears that
So
she makes fun of.
as much as I love the movie, I would say Ariel is my least favorite character. I
Mm.
love everyone else. She's okay. Like I don't hate her, but I definitely like she's not my favorite.
Maturity is when you realize that your least favorite Disney princess is just, they're not my favorite. They're not like bad or evil or toxic. It's just like,
she's just a teenager that kind of like I'm like, just rolling my eyes a lot.
Yeah. I love her for
Feeling
her
Sebastian really hard.
Oh, yeah.
His frustration with her.
Yeah, she'd be, as an adult, she'd be very frustrating. I think she's very relatable and I love her messiness. And it is like a strong contrast to like before you have like Aurora, who's like, oh, I hate that I'm sacrificing my whole life for something I just found out about, but okay, I guess I'll do it. And like your Belles and your Cinderellas that are very focused on like what other people are feeling. But
yeah, I mean, my favorite Disney princess is Nala from The Lion King for one, because she is totally a princess, and then like Tiana. So
Tiana would not.
That's
miss
where my
an
standard
important
is. You know?
appointment.
She would not.
Tiana has a calendar. I think you see it in the movie.
She does.
She has like a calendar of all her ships.
She has planned everything down to the minute.
Yeah, Ariel's the first Disney princess that we meet that's raised as a princess.
Interesting.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, she does not have a job or like.
She doesn't have a job, and she's never really had to think
And
very
it
much about
shows.
like other people.
Yeah. Yeah,
she's never had to respect someone else's timetable.
She hasn't had to put in the work berry picking.
Yeah,
that's a good point. It's a very
Yeah.
good point.
Hasn't been a literal child slave like Cinderella.
Like Cinderella.
She didn't work retail, and it shows.
Yeah.
Never been a waitress, and she's never worked retail.
And do we ship her and Eric?
Sure.
I totally ship them.
They're so
something I
cute.
noticed they're so cute and they're really similar. I something I noticed in this watch through that I didn't really pick up on earlier is the movie, because they don't spend a lot of on-screen time together, but the movie does make the most of showing what kind of people they are early on. Like I feel like both of their early scenes mirror each other in showing that these are two very similar people. They're dreamers, they're adventurous, they're romantics, and they're both really reckless in a way. They really hurl themselves into dangerous situations without thinking about it first.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I approve of Eric's recklessness more, because his recklessness was climbing onto a burning ship to save his dog.
Yeah.
Although I forgot that Ariel did go back to save Flounder, but the first thing that I thought of was like she's reckless to save her bag of trinkets.
Yeah.
But they're both reckless, they're brave, they're
very brave.
They're very adventurous. They're a lot of fun. They are the same age, which is delightful.
Yes.
That is to be desired. And I think they're both like good. They're good in well, Eric is better in a crisis because he runs.
Yeah.
He I love at the end how he's just he's rolling with the wild shit that has happened to him in the
Yeah,
past 10
right?
minutes. He's like, I was under a spell. Spell is broken. There's the woman that I actually love. She's a mermaid. The woman I was going to marry is a tentacle witch. Like, oh God, we're in the ocean. Oh my God, the Sea King is here. Oh my God, the tentacle witch just turned 20 stories high. What do I do? What do I do? I'm gonna climb onto this abandoned ship and run her through with the broken mast. I got it.
Yes.
Like, he's so good in a crisis. I love
He
him.
picks fight between fight or flight.
He
Yeah.
does.
Fight.
He does. But overall, like, I really ship Eric and Ariel together. I think that they're a strong couple. I foresee this lasting really well, even though they don't know each other very well yet.
Yeah, they have that same kind of charm where similar, it's like built upon more than Philip and Aurora, but I feel like they're following in those footsteps of like this kind of like charmy, flirty, I think this movie in a weird way takes a lot from Sleeping Beauty, but does it in a way that's much more marketable and relatable and a little less high art. Not that this movie isn't art and great and amazing. You know what I mean though? Like it's definitely much more like you pick it up. Like we're on it. We're focused on this girl. We're focused on what she wants. Like it's clear.
Yeah.
You don't have to have 20 minutes of prep. And yeah, we
I
love
the 20 minutes of prep. It was my favorite part of that movie.
I know. I love it. I mean, I love the movie. It's my favorite Disney movie. But it's. I remember friends being like, "What? Why are we watching this?" So we have Sebastian, Flounder, Scuttle, Max. What a great collection! Grimsby, Carlotta, quality side characters. And Triton is kind of an antagonist in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Bad dad.
At least he learns.
He's very controlling.
Yes.
And he has to learn to not be controlling.
Gotta let her fly. Or walk.
Yeah, she wants to walk. That's really what she wants. Sick of swimming. Ready to stand.
And what do we think of our antagonist?
Love her. We love Ursula.
Oh yeah. How could anyone not love her?
Quality
She's so
villain.
good. Yeah.
Icon.
And Hannah's favorite character in all media.
I mean, if I really think about it, maybe.
And that's a perfectly valid way to feel. She's just fabulous. She's fantastic in every conceivable way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love her.
I remember sending Hannah, so they made some Disney villain dolls where they made Ursula kind of thin, and I was sending it to me like, what is this?
Yeah. I was like, let her be fat. Come on.
Yeah.
Be fat and proud. Come on.
Yep.
She looks amazing.
Yeah.
Perfection. I know. I kind of wish I could have seen what her ultimate plans were just a little bit.
Yeah.
What is her plan for world domination? I'm curious because if she is going to turn everyone into those little slugs, he's just going to be ruling over dolphins.
Well, then the human world is next.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah,
It has
that's
to be.
true.
Expand Enterprise.
Girl
There's a
boss.
series of books. So I haven't read any of them, but they're kind of like what if everything went wrong versions of Disney movies. And there's one where Ursula wins, and it's about like Ariel fighting with the resistance or something, and then
Oh, that's kind of fun. I'm into that.
They also started a series of books from the prince's perspective. So the Eric book is out, and they're making, I think in October, the Philip book comes out.
Interesting.
So
That's fun.
Yeah. Disney's just making fanfic now. They know we'll buy it. Themes. The themes I could come up with: the classic Disney follow your dreams, looking for belonging, freedom, and then kind of still sacrifices in the fairy tale. Just not little reward for the sacrifice. Yeah.
Finding your place.
Yeah, finding your place. The movie doesn't feel too concerned with themes, to be honest. It's a pretty cut and dry, straightforward. That's kind of what's going on there.
Yeah, there's not a lot of subtext going on.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Even compared to say Aladdin, I feel like there's lots of layers to this concept of freedom they're talking over, and or Beauty and the Beast. There's a little more, but Little Mermaid is the transitional between the old school fairy tale and the layered Renaissance approach. Yeah, so that's our big question is: was that your fantasy?
Yes, 100%. Love this movie. Wish I was a mermaid.
I guess it's my
You can have multiple
I
fantasies.
guess
So
so.
it
I
doesn't
guess
have
so.
to
Yeah.
be your only
Yes. It's my
fantasy.
it's my fantasy in terms of like finding like a love that suits you and pursuing it and being able to have that love like in harmony with the other parts of your life that bring you fulfillment and like not I like this movie and it's my fantasy like not having to choose
Yes.
between what kind of life you want to have.
The Hannah
I can have it
Montana,
all.
both. Yeah. And there's talking animals and mermaids and great musical
Exactly.
numbers.
And a beautiful palace by the sea. It's just I honestly like at the end of the movie, like looking at Ariel's life and what she has now, what's not to like?
Yeah.
What's not to like there?
Yep, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, totally my fantasy.
This is such a great fantasy. This is the ultimate mermaid story. I mean, we'll be visiting some other mermaid stories soon. I'm not going to promise what we're going to see next because we're doing a lot.
Between a couple options.
Yeah. So Fairy Tale Fix, where can people find you and some of your mermaid content?
You can find us anywhere you stream your podcasts, you know, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter at Fairy Tale Fix Pod across platforms. And we have some fun fairy tale and folktale content. So come check us out. And
Highly
we're so
recommend.
excited to have you on the show. Absolutely.
Yes,
we want
we
you to come
definitely
read us
wanna be
some
on.
fairy tales soon.
So excited
Awesome.
about that.
Yeah, we may have brainstormed a theme on our private call, so we're not going to reveal it yet.
Yeah, and I may
but,
have seen a tale with that title with a similar title when I was looking through my Hans Christian Andersen book for this episode. So
Okay.
Oh, fun. Well, you can also follow Not My Fantasy Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And if you are watching on YouTube, hello, you can
smash that like button
and subscribe. Definitely leave us a comment. What do you love about The Little Mermaid? Is this your fantasy? I guess which one of the Little Mermaid songs is your favorite? Because there's so many good ones.
That's a hard pick.
I mean, there's so many iconic ones. And then also, it doesn't matter where you're listening, you can head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, let us know what you loved, and share us with your friends and family.
You can follow me at Cullen Ever After on Instagram as well. But I am partnering with Outside In Theater. We'll be releasing a Twitch show where I will be DMing Mythology Demigod Summer Camp, much like a certain franchise themed Dungeons and Dragons campaign. For 6 episodes, Tuesday nights this summer, I believe starting June 13th, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We will keep you updated if anything changes. But catch me and some friends telling a coming of age story in a fantastical setting. So
Yay. I'm excited. And maybe we'll have paired some fun content on the podcast with it. I don't know.
I don't know if some of some stuff in this episode might be a taste of what's to come. All right, well, Fairy Tale Fix, Abbie and Kelsey.
Thank you, guys.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, this was so great. Thanks for having us on.
Can't wait to be on your pod. And listeners, check out in a couple weeks the next mermaid themed episode. Ooh. So comment below with what you think it might be.
Spicy. All right.
Bye.
Bye.